Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All right. What is up, everybody? Here I am tweeting during the intro. That's just dangerous. All right. Yeah. Getting settled in. Got some WD-40 on the chair, and this is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Oh, yeah. How you doing tonight? I'm good. Are you good? Today is Wednesday, July 16th. 184 days into the new year. I see you, Dale. Let's get this one cracking live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in Burbank, California. For KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network, I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and let's get this one cracking. Yeah. Big salute, big proud salute to the men and women in uniform fighting that good fight for us all around the world, protecting our freedom of speech and the right to do this show right now. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. If we dropped out, we're going to keep moving forward. Just got a message. Today, Stuart Copeland, drummer of the Police, is 62 years old. Relax, everybody. It's all good. Relax. Run silent, run deep. Today, actor Daryl Mitchell is 49 years old. Now, before you freak out and go, Jimmy, who the heck is Daryl Mitchell? In tribute to our show last night, the greatest sci-fi films of all time, Daryl Mitchell is the guy who played Tommy Maddox, the pilot in Galaxy Quest. And I got to just say, Daryl was, everybody was good and great in Galaxy Quest, but Tommy Maddox, man, I could sit here and quote his lines all night from that movie. All right, let's go. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, hashtag DMRadioNet. Tweet deck is open and live to my left. Follow us on Facebook. Facebook is not open to my left. We close Facebook down during the show. It just irritates me, and I can't get that audio to settle down and chill out. So that's it. It just bothers me during the show. So there's no Facebook during the show. So if you post something in Facebook, or if a producer here does during the show, I'm not going to know about it, and I won't see it. So Facebook is shut down during the show. It's active minutes before and minutes after, but that's it. YouTube, KJCR Fade to Black, that's the YouTube channel. And really weird, this week, had some listeners, some fans out there that wrote me saying there's missing shows on YouTube. I can't believe somebody has the patience to go, and I appreciate it and I respect it, but I don't even know. I don't even go back and look and see. And there was some numbering issues with episodes way back in the beginning. 4.1 and 4.0 and stuff was split in half and so forth. No, there are no missing episodes on YouTube. There are 2 episodes, I believe it's 22 and 25, that had some audio issues, and the files were bad, and those shows were just never posted. And the show was live, and it just forever went off into the ether. It is forever gone. So those 2 shows, I think one was Robert Salas, and I want to get him back on the show just to do another interview so we have it archived and get it up there. But Colonel Salas, that show was gone. It's forever gone. And whatever 25 was, I can't remember what that episode was, but yeah, forever gone. Other than that, everything is there. So if there's a numbering problem or something was misnumbered or wasn't right, it doesn't matter. The only 2 episodes that are missing are 22 and 25. All right? Everything else is there. It may be numbered weird, but it's all there. The only thing that's missing is Von Daniken, and that's because we're doing that Dyatlov edit into that with some images. So we'll get that up. It'll probably be this weekend. All right, let me hit my Starbucks. Oh, you have no idea. I just broke every broadcasting rule in the world, but it tastes good. I can't resist. Yeah, tonight, open lines last night. That was pretty cool. Everybody dig that? I dug it. I had a good time. If I had my druthers when you do a show like that, I say bang out the phone calls and I just like to talk. Talk. Calls are coming in, I'm ignoring them, and I'm sitting there, with the caller and talking. And if I could do it another way, it would be like just take the call, bam, and do like 20 calls an hour. Just rapid fire. I think that would be cool too. So I don't know. I had a good time last night. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I did. I had a great time. Okay. Let's see. Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, open lines later on tonight. I think Mr. Sullivan will do that, and we'll ask his permission when he comes on. If we do, the number is 323-825-5045. And you can Skype into as well, which is Fade2Black14. Got a couple of emails today about Solaris Blue Raven saying we should co-host a show together. And Solaris called in last night. That was pretty cool. And I did read those emails today. So, I do want to get her on. I want to talk about Rush. I want to talk about the band Rush. And I don't want to give away anything there, but if you know Solaris and her situation with Rush, it's a fascinating conversation. Anyway, so moving on. Deserts, contact in the deserts. Last week's winners will do another round tomorrow. Last week was Darcy Lund, Thomas Peake, and Sandra Rios. We'll do another round tomorrow. Go over to jimmychurchradio.com. I do want everybody, before I take this first break, if you go over to jimmychurchradio.com now, we've sped up the page. It's much better. Everything is well, compared to what it was, lightning quick. And I'm watching it load now. It's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. The archives page, we now have a new page that's up, a totally new site that will be handling all media, images, audio, video. Everything is going to be over. It's on a new site. It's called KJCR Fade to Black, and it's the media page. Kind of looks like this page, but and we will have all the links up, and the 2 sites will cross into each other. But no more slowing down of this page. We've changed all the fonts, and it loads up. It scrolls correctly. So, everybody, I think we've solved most of the major technical issues. If it were up to me, I would just have a one-page site anyway. Just one page. Just one. It's just a radio show. Just one page, let it load and go. But the show is gotten bigger than that, and we let the website get out of control. I will say we've been working on it, and it's we let it get so out of control that there was a lot to fix. And now that we have 80, 90 shows in the tank, we have all of that. So you change one thing, you've got to change 80 things. 80 galleries, 80 this, 80 that. It's 90. So there you go. All right, but I think it's cool. I think we've got it all caught up. So head over to jimmychurchradio.com. Check it out. I think everybody is going to be happy now. Let's see. Contact in the Desert. Go click on it. That'll take you over to the Fade to Black page where you can enter the contest. Again, we're going to do another round tomorrow. So if you haven't entered or you want to enter again, I don't know how that works, but go enter. We're going to do another round tomorrow. So it'll be one of your last shots at getting to Contact in the Desert. I say it every single night. Tsoukalos, Von Daniken, Greer, Wilcock, Mars, Dolan, West, Martell, Tellinger, Pope, Linda Moulton Howe. You can't say her last name. You have to say her whole name. Linda Moulton Howe. You have to say the whole name. Howe is not right. You got to say Linda Moulton Howe. James Gilliland, Bassett, Eisenhower, Marcel, Clarfield, everybody. Travis Walton, Nick Redfern. He's going to be wearing his punk rock leather jacket and some Dead Kennedys T-shirt. You've got to go to Contact in the Desert. I'm serious. We will be broadcasting August 8th, that Friday. We'll be set up. We've got I think I announced this last night, but we're going to have a little red carpet action, little backdrop, and it's going to be really, really, really cool. We'll be set up there with Steve Murillo from UPARS, and it's going to be really cool. So enter the contest. Win yourself something. It's going to be great. I cannot wait. All right. Last night, wow. Really, talk about stick in the hornet's nest. That top 10 science fiction films of all time. Got so much email about that today. Jimmy, you left out. Jimmy, what about Jimmy? And I'm hip. We should have done a top 50. I get that too. But what I just want, what is on everybody's mind? What's on the front of your brain? When it comes to sci-fi films, what is it? And that's what I did last night. If I would have thought about it and analyzed it, I would have thought too much. I just wanted the top 10, what was the first things that I think about, the first movies. That's what I did last night. And the response today was just great. And I have the feeling we are going to do that again. Tonight we have, we got to do top 10 sci-fi. Top 10 time travel. I think that's the next one. Oh, Spaceboy just wrote Primer. He just tweeted Primer. I hope somebody watched Primer last night. Primer's Primer's a game changer. That is a true game changer. Anyway, tonight, Robert Sullivan IV. And should I call him Robbie? Bobby? Robert Sullivan IV. I can't wait. And so tonight, cinema symbolism and just about everything else that I love to talk about, we're going to go through tonight. And I'm really excited about that. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe in the house tomorrow night. And then Friday, of course, John B. Wells will be with us. It's going to be a fun week. It's already been a fun week. Last night was pretty cool. Tonight's going to be pretty cool. Tomorrow night, pretty cool. Friday, it's a good closer for the week. John B. Wells. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. At JChurch Radio. Follow us right now on Twitter. At JChurch Radio. Easy to do. And hashtag DMRadioNet. And go hang out with all the other Fadernauts and go cause some trouble. That's what you should do. Only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, Fade to Black Wednesday. Bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Oh, I love my job. Yeah. All right. Yeah, tonight, Robert Sullivan IV at the bottom of the hour. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe. Friday, John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. John B. Wells. John B. Can I do that? John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight on Friday. A couple of breaking news stories today. Yesterday and today. One is the Times of India reported today, and we put this up on Facebook. I didn't get it. We didn't get it onto the website today. But the Times of India, and this has flooded the internet, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's crazy. The links are over at Jimmy Church Radio on Facebook, or one of the page. Yeah, it's on Jimmy Church Radio. 10,000-year-old rock paintings depicting aliens and UFOs found in Chhattisgarh. Now, that's the headline. That's the headline. So go and check it out, first off. And if you haven't seen it, go look at these paintings. This is the press release out of Charma, India. It says the Chhattisgarh State Department of Archaeology and Culture plans to seek help from NASA and ISRO for research on 10,000-year-old rock paintings depicting aliens and UFOs in the Charma region in Kanker district and in tribal Bastar. According to archaeologist J.R. Bhagat, these paintings have depicted aliens like those shown in Hollywood and Bollywood flicks. Located about 130 kilometers from Raipur, the caves come under village Chandeli and Gatitola. And I'm quoting here. The findings suggest that humans in prehistoric times may have seen or imagined beings from other planets, which still create curiosity among people and researchers. Extensive research is needed for further findings. Now, you have to go and look at these. They're crazy. They show they're holding I don't know. They're holding some type of, I don't want to say weapon, but it looks almost, I don't know. They're holding things in their hands. Their faces don't have eyes or noses. And according to the indigenous tribes there, the paintings are of the little people from the sky. Check them out. 10,000-year-old rock paintings Big story, and we'll see where it goes. But it seems like, I don't want to say it's a leap of faith just to go there so quickly in a press release like that with the Times of India. It's like the New York Times. So pretty bold. But I got to say, when you look at the paintings, one has to wonder. It's a head scratcher. It's a real one. It's pretty cool stuff. So you need to go check that out. If you haven't, it's over on the Facebook page, and maybe before the top of the hour, we can get that some links up to Jimmy Church Radio, and we'll get that to you. All right? Now, the other big story, and I have meant to do a segment on this for a while now. Not this story, but the other story. What am I talking about? It's the 100-meter wide hole that has appeared in Russia's up in the northeastern region of the country. Very desolate area. It's a 100-meter wide hole. And it looks like, now, if you go over to Church Rant, right now, go to jimmychurchradio.com, scroll down, hit up Church Rant. It's right there, From Russia with Love. And what we have here, the first picture is the Russian hole that has appeared. So you click on that. There it is. Nice, large. There's the hole. The other three pictures that we have here are of the Potomsky crater in Siberia. And they look eerily similar. When this crater, the hole, and the news story popped up today, I thought it was the Potomsky crater in Siberia, that the center hole had blown out or sunk in. I'll get to that in a second. Researchers are now, they're investigating the mysterious hole. It's unclear what caused it. It looks like the debris was blown out. They're suspecting that it's from natural gas, possibly. They don't know. A lot of their natural gas production for the country comes from this region. They've been doing a lot of pumping of gas. So could that be related? Don't know. They're collecting soil and water samples from the site, and that will be going on today and tomorrow, and we'll find out a little bit more about it. But if you look at the images 2, 3, and 4 here, that's of the Potomsky crater. And click on the first one. This is a not so well known site in ufology. If you're deep into it, you may have seen these images before. The rumors are of this crater, and it's huge, and you can see the trees that are next to it, and those trees are 100 feet, 150 feet tall. So if those trees are that big, you can see that this crater is absolutely ginormous. But this is the rumor. The stories behind this are that crater was formed by a UFO, a crashed disc. It went into the ground, and it's still sitting there now. The disc or ship is it's cigar shaped. It's about 100 meters long, 50 meters in diameter, metallic, obviously. And all of this rock and debris here is radiated. Everybody, they don't go and investigate this site because you go and you die, basically. There's been some research done, but it's very remote. But the ship that has caused this crater has moved over the years and burrowed a little bit deeper. Now, those are the stories. The research is tough to find on this. I have been looking at this for years and years. But it reminds me of what just happened yesterday in Russia. They look very, very similar. And the way that the rocks have blown out. Now, if you go to the next image, you can see it's on a slope. and you can see the dome in the middle. The dome is extracted rock and debris from what is underneath it that is pushing it up. As you can see, it's not your normal meteor crater. That's not a meteor that's in the center of it, and it doesn't look like anything you've ever seen before. Something crashed into the earth, and then the dome that you see in the middle has been pushed up from whatever is underneath. The rocks and boulders, go to the next picture. That's the hillside. And those rocks and boulders that you are looking at are huge. That's not small. That's huge. The amount of extraction and what was kicked out and blown up, it was a large explosion. And that's called the Potomsky Crater. That's spelled Patomskiy, and it's in Siberia. Just take out your pen, write that down, go check it out. But they look very similar. And like I said, when I first saw the images of the new hole that they're calling it, I was thinking something. They seem related. I could be wrong. We don't have two of these in the United States. They've got two of these in Russia now. So, yeah, breaking news. Crazy day in news. So, all right, so I'm ready. We are at the bottom of the hour. This is Fade to Black. I've got some emails I wanted to get to. Maybe we'll do that at the end of the show, and we'll talk about some other things, all right? And also, I wanted a slight recap on some of the stuff that we talked about on last night's show. So with that, let's take a break. And coming up next will be Robert Sullivan IV. Tomorrow night, don't forget, Linda Moulton Howe. Friday night, John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. We'll be here on Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Dark Matter.
Dark Matter. Dark Matter. Dark Matter. Dark Matter.
You're listening to Fade to Black
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, Wednesday. Great week of radio here on the Dark Matter Radio Network. This is bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And let's get this one cracking. Robert W. Sullivan IV is a philosopher, historian, oh no, I said that 5 times before the show to make sure I got it right. Jurist, theologian, writer, and lawyer. The Royal Ark of Enoch is his first published book and is the result of 20 years of research. This year he has published his second book, Cinema Symbolism, a guide to esoteric imagery in popular movies. Mr. Sullivan received his BA from Gettysburg College in 1995, having spent his entire junior year studying European history at St. Catherine's College, Oxford University. He received his JD from Widener University, Delaware campus in 2000, and he studied international law and jurisprudence at Trinity College, Oxford University. Mr. Sullivan is a Freemason, having joined the Amicable St. John's Lodge number 25 in Baltimore, Maryland in 1997. He became a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason in 1999. He lives in the Valley of Baltimore, Orient of Maryland. I would like to welcome to the program, very humbly, Robert Sullivan IV. Robert, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I am, Jimmy. Thank you for having me on Fade to Black. It's great to be here with you tonight.
It's how to say it?
Antiquarian.
Antiquarian. I said it 5 times. Antiquarian. Let's start right there.
It's just a fancy way of saying historian.
You could have said that. Antiquarian. What a great word. And now that I've completely embarrassed myself, the other night, and if you don't mind, can I call you Rob? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Before we get into it, I was talking to, without exposing who I was speaking with, but I had a guest at my home the other night, and who just became a Freemason. Mm-hmm. And so we sat and talked about, I had a couple of guests, but again, I can't expose who they are. It wouldn't be right. But I sat and discussed Freemasons with them and as much as I could get out of them. But, Scottish Rite, and once you're out of a 3rd degree and, the blue hat and moving on and getting into Scottish Rite and moving up and how that is determined. It is it's a fascinating subject for all of us, but why do you think I sat there for 3 hours and discussed this like at the edge of my seat? What is the fascination with Freemasons for those who know nothing? What is it?
Well, it's a very popular fraternal order that dates back to 1717, and what you will find with it is that a lot of its symbols and its morality lessons and its teachings, both in the Blue Lodge and the higher degree, are being incorporated into material culture, into society in general. And this could be no more true than with the United States of America, which, for lack of a better word, which I describe in the book, in the Royal Arch book, as a Masonic republic, which is what it is. And then you have a lot of people who, have gone on to fame and fortune. 14 presidents have been Freemasons, loads of Supreme Court justices, senators, congressmen, captains of industry, people in Hollywood. So, of course, there's also this darker element with it, that, hey, are all these guys working together in some sort of, conspiracy, to take over or something? That's really not the case, but it's a very influential society. It became very popular since its inception in 1717 in England. It became very popular in the United States. It's for lack of a better word, wherever it goes, it becomes popular. People are drawn to it because there is no specific religious conviction that is required of you. You have to believe in what's called a supreme being, a God figure. How you get there is left up to you. You can be a Christian, you can be Jewish, you can be Muslim, you can be Hindu. You really can't be atheist. That's what you can't be.
Right.
To join. It's also been often described as what's called the poor man's enlightenment, where you could be sitting in a lodge next to a person who does a laborer next to, and this was the case in England. You could be next to a fishmonger, sitting next to a duke or a viscount or something. And everyone was treated equally. No one would have looked down upon you or not talked to you. I mean, once you got behind the lodge door, you were equal among men, no matter what your station in life was. So it becomes very popular. And and the other thing that's really interesting about it is a lot of the symbols and the incorporation, and at least for me at any rate, and it wasn't apparent at first when I joined, but it has subsequently become so, is it's really incorporating a lot of these teachings from these ancient mystery schools going back to Egypt, the Mithraism, Zoroastrianism, Pythagoreanism, sacred geometry. It's incorporating a lot of those those elements into its into the society. And of course, you also have this fascination with it, where I'm what's called a speculative Mason. I'm not an actual, the original Masons were these medieval stone builders, and they began admitting non-Masons, non-stone workers into their guilds to talk philosophy. And again, this was the idea that was when you were behind closed doors, you could talk about religion, you could talk about politics without having the monarch or the Vatican staring over your shoulder. So it becomes very popular on that aspect. But the point I was trying to make was you also have these elements of actual, construction. And again, you get into concepts of like Washington, D.C., where you actually have, with Masonic architecture, these sacred geometric incorporations, these astrological incorporations into the architecture. And it's a very fascinating subject. And you see it once or twice, you'd be almost willing to write it off as coincidence. But when you see these Masonic esoterica incorporated into, major cities and city planning and stuff like that. I mean, it's a source of fascination. It is for me at any rate. Now I'm a Mason.
Now, obviously there's certain elements that you can and shouldn't, and I respect that, talk about. I get that. I really do. But, and you're not going to reveal anything. I would love to try to get something out of you, but I won't.
Well, you can. Well, I can tell you what the only thing I can't talk about.
Well, but let me get the thought out though, which is if you came on the show anonymously, right? Where I said, this is John Smith. Right. Would you cross that line mentally? Is it so indoctrinated into you that you even anonymously you wouldn't be able to go into certain zones, or could you, or would you, in an anonymous sense?
Well, I would think anonymously I would present the exact same material that I'm presenting as Robert Sullivan. The only thing in Masonry that really you're not supposed to talk about, and I have no problem telling you this, what they don't want you talking about is really what's called the tokens of recognition, the handshakes, the passwords, some of the secret names, tokens, signs, what are called signs of recognition. That's really the taboo subject matter that they don't want you talking about. The philosophical, historical interpretations of the ritual, the philosophies, the symbolic interpretations. Mm-hmm. That's all fair game. Mm-hmm. The only thing I'm really not allowed to talk about is like the secret names, the handshakes, the passcripts, things like that. In the book, in the Royal Arch book, if it comes to where I had to write this down, the only thing I did was I wrote the initials down. I didn't actually write the word down. But the truth be told, Jimmy, a Google search will reveal this material anyway. I know that for a fact because I've done it myself. Right. So if the only reason I can't talk about it is because I made an obligation not to. But if a person wants to find out what the passcripts are for the second degree, I'm sure a routine Google search will reveal that.
I was sitting on my back patio with our guest, and this is somebody I know intimately, okay, very mm-hmm. close. And I said, okay, so what's the secret handshake? Nope, no, come on. And I'm telling you, it was the fear of death was definitely put into him, because this is somebody that I thought he would go, yeah, this is it. Yeah, check this out. And he wouldn't give up the goods. And I was very impressed with that. Very impressed. So I don't know the secret handshake.
When you go in and when you become a Mason, you swear never to reveal these secrets. A pain punishment of death, and the punishments are very gory and graphic. And you're not supposed to talk about it, but of course we have to have history books. We have to have books about Freemasonry. So if you read a lot of the Masonic scholars prior to me, and I'm talking about people like Albert Mackey, he comes to mind. Basically, what they say is, look, if you're a Freemason and you want to write a book about the history, the symbols, the ritual, you can do that as long as you don't give away the passwords, the handshakes. It's what's called the tokens of recognition. That's what they don't want you talking about. And again, I really don't talk about it in the book. Right. But the ritual interpretations and the symbols and the histories and the philosophies, that's pretty much fair game.
This is the thing, and I understand under penalty of death, and it's probably a pretty scary thought. I don't know if in today's society if that is if you're taking that 100% serious, but certainly 300, 400, 500, 600 years ago, that was probably a very real and valid position to take.
Yeah, I would imagine so. If I were to come on the show and were to talk about it, don't think I'd have some Freemasons show up on my doorstep ready to cut my head off or disembowel me.
Right.
But I would probably be penalized for it. The punishments are allegorical. I mean, if you break them, you will be looked down upon. You may even be removed from the lodge or have your membership tossed out or something. But I mean, no, there's no Freemason who is going to actually go and commit those rituals and commit first-degree murder or anything like that. That's not going to happen anymore. But it's what they're doing is what they're really trying to teach you with all this is just to keep your word. Is we're going to let you in. We're going to privy you to this esoteric information. Which is we recognize you by these handshakes. So just don't go telling it to the public. And it's a vow to keep your word. And this is what is also taught in the third degree ritual as well, is to keep your word, even in the face of death, that you don't break your bond. And that's one of the morality lessons that Freemasonry teaches.
Do you mind if I pop a couple more questions about this?
You go right ahead.
Okay. With 33rd degree, how many 33rd degrees are there out there?
I don't know.
I tried to get this answer. Yeah, I tried to get this answer the other day, and I got the same thing.
It would be hard to say because it's a state by state thing. So I don't know how many there would be in say Oregon or Montana. I mean, I just have no idea. I can tell you that degrees in the Scottish Rite system, degrees 4 through 32 are those. Once you become a Blue Lodge Freemason, once you become a Master Mason, you could do one of two higher degree systems. You could do neither of them if you want to. One's called the York Rite, one's called the Scottish Rite. I did the Scottish Rite because that's where all my family went to. But the 32nd degree is as high as you can go in the Scottish Rite. The 33rd degree is honorary. It has to be bestowed upon you. You cannot solicit it. You can't seek it out. It has to be offered to you. They are few and far between. It's not like there's one or two of them.
Right.
I just want to say off the top of my head in the state of Maryland, I mean, maybe you could just mathematically go from there. Probably, this is just a guesstimate on my part, I would say at any given time in the state of Maryland, there's probably 20 to 30 of them, maybe as high as 40 to 50. But I don't think it goes beyond that. But that's just an estimation on my point.
What happens? What happens when you go 33? Is there some secret, the meaning of life? I mean, why go from 32 to 33?
Right. It's basically given to people who are very active in the community, celebrities, people of note, people who have been very active in community involvement, philanthropists, charity work. That will give you the 33rd degree. There is a ritual that accompanies it. Since I've never done it, I couldn't tell you what it is. But again, would be secret. But I believe that there is some portions of it that might actually be open to family and friends who are non-Masons, but don't hold me to that. But it's just an honorary degree that the Scottish Rite bestows upon people that it deems worthy based on community service, charity work, philanthropic work. Political involvements can get it to you. Captains of industry, things of that nature. I'm a 32nd, but I've never had a 33rd in my family. But it's just the Supreme Council, or the Valley in Baltimore, wherever your affiliation is, would be the body that would bestow it on you.
I guess the question would be more if the day comes that you're now a 33rd, right? You've
right.
done it, and you're driving home after the ritual, the ceremony. You're now a 33rd. And you're driving home stunned because you were given some information that shocked you into something else. Would that occur?
I doubt it very much. Again, it's more of an honorary. It's more of an honorary degree more than it is of some sort of, esoteric, wisdom that is presented to you. You do have esoteric wisdom presented to you in the Blue Lodge and in the higher degree system. I do not dispute that. But it is very veiled, and it oftentimes takes years to unravel this material. It's presented to you in symbolic allegory. And, a lot of times, this is especially true in the Blue Lodge, and especially today in today's system, where the people presenting it to you aren't even aware of the esoteric, interpretations of it. It's one of those things where, when I went through it in '97, I just went through it, I was impressed with it, but it wasn't until, a couple years later that, you start reading some of the, works by more of these esoteric Freemasons that you really begin to understand the deeper meaning of these rituals. As crazy as it's going to sound, it's really, for me, it didn't become apparent until after I went through it. Now this may be changing a little bit because of the internet and things like that today. In '97, I didn't have any of that.
Right.
But, they are presenting to you concepts of Gnosticism, lost history, or what appears to be lost history anyway, some very deep esoteric lore, but it's veiled. It's veiled. It's veiled even to the people going through it. And you got to sit down and read some of these Masons, like the Royal Arch of Enoch book, like the Albert Mackeys of the world, the Albert Pikes, Manly Palmer Hall, and that's when you really will be able to start unraveling this material.
With Freemason temples that you see all over, there's a large one down the street from us here. That's one thing. With the Knights Templar, are there lodges for that too? I mean, you don't drive by those and see those. Where do they hang out?
Right. The Knights Templar are the final body of the York Rite of Freemasonry. If you want to become a Knight Templar, you have to do the three bodies of the York Rite. I forget the last one is the capitular body. There's also the cryptic degrees. I forget the name of the first one right now. But in order to join the Knights Templar, you have to go through the York Rite system of Freemasonry. The Knights Templar really distinguish themselves from any other body of Freemasonry because this is not required in the Blue Lodge. It's not required in the Scottish Rite. In order to become or join the Knights Templar, you have to swear allegiance to Jesus Christ. It is a 100% Christian Freemasonic organization. So if you are Jewish, Muslim, Deist, Hindu, Buddhist, you are probably not going to join the York Rite. If you do join the York Rite, you're probably going to stop before joining the Knights Templar for the obvious reason. The Templars, their meetings, I can't speak for every state. I want to say the Templars meet, I know in the Scottish Rite Temple in Baltimore, they will occasionally have meetings of the Knights Templar, the York Rite there. I know the Templars meet in the Grand Lodge complex here in Maryland. That's outside the city of Baltimore. That's not too far over the city line. The Templars, I know that there are some York Rite buildings. I don't know how many, but I know that a lot of the York Rite. I know that in the old Maryland Grand Lodge, the York Rite guys had their own room and separate complex basically as part of the thing that was just strictly the York Rite. I know the York Rite guys in Maryland use a lot of the Grand Lodge facilities. I know this from just being at the Scottish Rite building, that they use some of the Scottish Rite rooms as well from time to time. But again, this is just Maryland I'm speaking. In California, it could be a little bit different, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if in other states the Templars don't use, and they'll also use local Blue Lodge meeting places as well. If you've got a Blue Lodge that is very Christian, and you've got a lot of brothers in it who are York Rite guys, and in the Templars, it would not be uncommon at all for the Templars to use that lodge building on a night or two. That's certainly not uncommon.
How do you know if you've met a Knights Templar?
If you've met one, they may tell you. Well, they may tell you. If they don't, you may be able to identify them. Perhaps by a tie bar or a ring. I wear Scottish Rite. I have two Scottish Rite rings that I wear. which would identify me as that. The modern day Knights Templar. These are the Templars we're talking about right now. Just so we're all on the same page here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a modern day organization. This is an early 19th century creation. Now they use and incorporate all the color schemes and symbols of the medieval Knights Templar, but the medieval Knights Templar were put out of business. They seem to go underground. Where they finally wound up to, we really don't know. But the Templars of the York Rite, this was a creation of really two men named DeWitt Clinton and Thomas Smith Webb. These guys, you might be able to recognize them through some sort of jewelry they wear, a ring, a lapel pin. They might just tell you. You might see a license plate that identifies them as a York Rite. Might have the cross and crown on it. That's a very popular York Rite Knights Templar symbol. You'd have ways to identify them. If you met a Mason who was one, I don't think they would shy away from telling you they were one if you asked them.
Right.
I don't see that happening. If you asked a Freemason, are you a member of any higher degree bodies? He says, I'm the York Rite or the Scottish Rite. And if you said I'm the York Rite, you say, hey, did you join the Knights Templar? I'm sure he would have no problem telling you that.
This just popped in on Twitter. It's a good question. Who do the Scottish Rite pledge to?
Who is it?
Who do the Scottish Rite pledge to?
The Scottish Rite and the Scottish Rite requires no religious requirement to join it. It's in order to join Blue Lodge Freemasonry, you have to be at least deist. That means you have to be a supreme believe in a supreme being.
Right.
The Scottish Rite degrees 4 through 32 require no religion requirement whatsoever. There is no real the Knights Templar are a complete anomaly in Freemasonry in requiring that religious requirement, but 32nd degree, there's no religious confession or anything like that. There is in the 14th degree of the Scottish Rite, there is a Catholic-styled confession that takes place where you swear, or at least promise to swear, not to try to take the Lord's name in vain. That's as close to there's no invoking of any sort of Christian, or Jesus Christ or anything like that in the Scottish Rite. You don't have to swear allegiance, to Jesus Christ or Buddha or Krishna or anything like that. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. There are a lot of Judeo-Christian overtones in the Scottish Rite. This is irrefutable. I talk about this in the book. But the Scottish Rite, by and large, you don't have to. Same with the York Rite. The three bodies of the York Rite, you can go through them and be Jewish. It's only when you get to the Knights Templar that the religious requirement comes in. I've been asked this before. What? And it's a fair question. It seems people have said it seems like the Scottish Rite is much more popular than the York Rite.
Right.
We all know about the Scottish Rite. No one really seems to know about the York Rite.
Right.
And this is probably the reason. It's because it seems to be a local thing. But if you're in a lodge with a lot of like Jewish people, they're probably not going to be attracted to the York Rite for the obvious reason, because they know that end ceremony. And it's not unheard of that if you people joining the York Rite, going through the first three bodies and they're just stopping before the Knights Templar. I know people who have done that, but that seems to be really the exception, not the rule. Really, the York Rite seems to draw the Christian Freemasons into it. That's fine. I'm not saying that to be critical or anything.
Right.
But the Scottish Rite in of itself does not require any particular religious confessional or anything. And
now I'm almost a little bit confused, because it seems like we've got a weird paradox here, which is you've got your blue hat on, right? You work your way up. You're now third degree. That's as far as you can go. You're a full-blown Mason, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, but you've sworn an allegiance to some type of God, whatever your religious beliefs are, in the Blue Lodge. Now, to move forward, to go to a fourth degree, and you go into the Scottish Rite, you don't have to. You don't have to have a pledge, an allegiance at that point.
Right.
But isn't that a little backwards? Could you almost suddenly wake up one day and have an epiphany and become atheist and then still be able to move forward in the Scottish Rite? Or would you have
Go ahead.
Do you understand the question? I mean, would you have to leave the Blue Lodge in order to? And what if you wanted to change your religion? What, I'm a little confused. So
Right. Blue Lodge Freemasonry is not religious. It's the polar opposite. It's devoid of religion. It's religion like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are not beliefs in God. If you think that, that's a mistake. They are beliefs about the personality of God. That's why they are excised out of Blue Lodge Freemasonry. You have to believe in a supreme being, but however you choose to get there is up to you. So you can be Christian and join, you can be Muslim, Jewish, as long as you believe in a God. You never really swear allegiance. It's just a belief that, you just have to believe. You have to believe in a supreme being in order to join Blue Lodge Freemasonry. Once you become a Master Mason, you can join one of two higher degree bodies, the York Rite or the Scottish Rite. It is completely up to you. You can join neither of them. Mm-hmm. There is no requirement to join either of these high degree bodies. If you become an atheist after you become a Freemason, then you should just resign and just not go back. And if you want to know how you leave Freemasonry, it's so simple. If you want to leave Freemasonry, stop paying your dues. You get a bill every year for your dues. It's around $60 in the state of Maryland. If you want to leave, don't pay it. They'll after about 2 years go by, they'll send you a warning in the mail saying if you don't pay it by this date, you're suspended. And again, if you just want out, don't pay it, then you're done. You can just walk away from it. You're suspended. The only way you could get back in is if you bring your bills back up to date. If you bring your account back up to speed. But Blue Lodge. It's just you have to believe in a supreme being, a deity type of figure. In the York Rite, we talked about, you have to, in order to finish it, in order to join the Templars, you have to be Christian. But the Scottish Rite degrees 4 through 32 are just, this may come as a surprise. When in the Blue Lodge, you actually go through the ritual. In the Scottish Rite, the rituals are more of dramas played out before you. When you join the Scottish Rite rituals, you kind of sit in an amphitheater and watch these morality plays on stage, and you just sit there and they just teach you these morality lessons. There's less of a participation in the Scottish Rite, but again, there's no sort of religious requirement in the Scottish Rite or in the York Rite per se until you get to the Knights Templar. There are varying philosophies in both these degrees that differ. I mean, I think this may be what you're picking up on, that kind of vary from the Blue Lodge. I mean, because you do have some philosophical splits between the two high degree systems and the Blue Lodge. That I agree. That is definitely documented in the book, because of where these higher degree systems come from and how they vary from the Blue Lodge system.
How okay, we're hitting the top of the hour. We're going to take a quick break, but I want to shoot out these a couple of questions really quick. Number one, Can you cheat on or misrepresent yourself as far as your religious beliefs? Is there a way, is there a way to not be truthful? Is there some kind of background check? Do you visit the prospect's church or temple where they go? And how is that checked out?
No. The answer to that question is if you're truly an atheist, you would have no interest in joining anyway.
No. Right. Wrong. Okay, I worded it wrong. Is there a way to get around the application process? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're Hindu and you want to say that you're Christian. Is there? Can you get caught? That's the question.
No. This is the question that's going to be asked of you. Do you believe in God? If your answer is yes, you join. If your answer is no, you walk away.
It's like that. So
right.
It's not Hindu, Buddhism.
There's no religion involved in any of this.
Okay, I got you. These questions are coming in not only via email but on Twitter about about this exact subject. So with that, I am going to let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you about background checks. I'm curious about this. and then we're going to move on. I want to talk Hollywood. So, but let's take a quick break. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke radio for the masses. Only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We are visiting with Robert Sullivan IV. Stay with us, Robert.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? My name's Brian Taylor, Ninja Badass Extraordinaire, and this is JimmyChurchRadio.com.
JJCR in your face.
JimmyChurchRadio.com on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black, Wednesday. Bespoke radio for the masses. Only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Follow us on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Hashtag DMRadioNet. Go hang out with everybody. I use TweetDeck here in the studio. I think everybody that hangs out uses TweetDeck these days. And so there you go. Hashtag DMRadioNet. Shoot me an email to Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. We are talking with Robert W. Sullivan IV. Robert, you've got a W and the fourth in your name. Is there a lot of Robert Sullivans running around out there that you just need to do the W and the fourth?
Yeah, it's a pretty common name. But yeah, that's the name they gave me. So, I just go with it.
I always I hassle anybody that uses their middle initial. Everybody, all of my producers here seem to want a middle initial in their name. It's really funny. So anyway, yeah, just to separate you, from all the other Rob Sullivans running around.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, background checks.
Are we back on?
Yeah, we're back on. We are.
Oh, okay. I thought we were in a break for a minute. No, go ahead. No, that's all right.
So background checks.
Yeah.
Can you be a felon and be a Freemason?
They will ask you on the application if you've ever been convicted of what's called a crime of moral turpitude, and it's real simple. When I joined, there were no background checks, and my understanding is that they will take your word for it. If you lie to them and it's discovered later, you're going to be thrown out. I have subsequently now been told that some states are beginning to do background checks, but when I went through it, they will ask you, but they won't check. But again, if you lie to them and they find out later, you will be removed.
So what does that mean? Could that be a DUI? Is that?
Well, yeah. No. They don't care about speeding tickets or running a red light. They want to make sure you don't have a rap sheet like a mile long or something. Things that fraud. A criminal violation, any sort of serious criminal violation, things like that would definitely raise a red flag. Some sort of repeat offender, drug peddling, that kind of stuff would definitely be a cause of alarm. Speeding tickets, unless you had, 1,000 of them or something,
right?
Or running a red light or something that they don't care about.
Now, I don't mean to be cavalier, but what if you smoked a joint in high school and got arrested for it? Would that prevent you from getting into the Freemasons?
I very much doubt it.
Okay. All right. So I'm cool.
No, I would not call that a crime of moral turpitude.
Okay. So that's the modern Freemasons. Yeah. Okay. And again, I don't mean to, these are questions that nobody ever, we don't get the answers to these types of questions. And I'm just throwing them out there. I just find it totally interesting. And I with the Knights Templar, when I was sitting conversing the other night with my guest here at the house, I wanted to. It's weird that you can find Freemason temples all over the place. They're always big. They're always nice. They're always clean, and you see them, but the Knights Templar, when we were talking about that the other night, I just don't remember seeing a Knights Templar lodge. And I had to ask you that question. They couldn't answer that the other night as well. So there isn't an actual Knights Templar lodge. They would do it at a Freemason temple.
They would probably. I mean, most likely, the York Rite could have a building where the Templars would meet. That's certainly possible. They would never identify it as the Knights Templar. It would be the York Rite. It would probably more identify itself with the York Rite than it would more with the Knights Templar. But again, it would not be uncommon for these guys to use a local lodge building, the Grand Lodge complex, or even a Scottish Rite temple, or even like an Oddfellows temple or something like that. That wouldn't be alarming or anything.
This is a good question. This came in from Michael Rad off of Twitter. Do you know who Scott Walter is?
I know the name.
Yeah.
He is on. I've seen him on the History Channel.
Right, and he believes that the Knights Templar made it over to the United States because of the hooked X.
Right.
Yeah, but do you know anything about that?
It's possible. I wouldn't shock me. The Templars, when they are suppressed, I want to say in 1307. They disappeared. By all accounts, they go to Scotland, and this is with the Roslin Chapel, and of course, they seem to have helped Robert the Bruce win Scottish independence. After that, they kind of disappear again. I've talked about this before, and I mentioned it in the book. But you got to backpedal a lot of. You have to go back to their time in the Holy Land. And could they have come back with something? And if they did, which I do believe they did. If they found something, what did they do with it? By all accounts, it wouldn't surprise me to learn that perhaps they went to Oak Island with it. You would have an underground vault. This is paralleling the Royal Arch Ceremonial, which has a lot of deep esoteric meaning to it. It's really one of the premier degrees in the higher degree system. The Templars. Would it floor me to learn that they came to the United States before Columbus? No. Could they have gone to Oak Island? That wouldn't floor me as well. It's interesting when you look at Columbus coming to the New World, and Columbus himself has ties to secret societies. I think one of his I think his father-in-law was a member of the Knights Hospitalier, but don't hold me to that. But I know there were secret societies connections with Columbus. The idea is that when Columbus came to the New World, he already knew it was there. And he knew this through this, possibly through a Templar connection. And it's interesting to note that the flags that Columbus sailed on his 3 ships were white with the red crosses, which is, of course, the emblem of the Templars. So, Columbus himself may have been trying to tell you, hey, I already knew about this through the Knights Templar. And I find that very interesting that the 3 flagships that Columbus came to the New World with all bore the white sails with the red crosses on them.
Yeah, every painting you see, every depiction that you see of those 3 ships are definitely flying those sails and flags. And I've always found that fascinating. And it's such an obvious thing to see. When you see that red cross with the white background, it only means one thing. And I always found that interesting when it comes to Columbus. And speaking of that, I want to change gears just a little bit. We're staying on the same subject. But I talk about NASA and its connections, possible connections with Freemasonry all the time. You certainly reference it in your book, The Royal Ark of Enoch. And let's talk about that NASA logo. And I find the references there are obvious. Where did the logo come from?
Well, with the NASA material, you definitely see a Freemasonic influence. The one that I document in the book, the one that's really the most obvious one to me that is very Freemasonic, is the Apollo 13 mission. Which is the sun being hoisted across the sky in the Kabbalistic sun chariot. And of course, Apollo 13, the number 13 is symbolizing this 13th degree of the Scottish Rite, which is called the Royal Arch of Enoch, which is the recovery its underlying philosophy is, well, in the ritual, it's the recovery of the tetragrammaton, or the name of God, through which all knowledge is possible. And of course, the logo for Apollo 13 was from the moon wisdom. So it's echoing the same sentiment of, the restoration of wisdom. And of course, within the Royal Arch ceremonial, the sun is what makes, the restoration of the tetragrammaton even possible through the sun rays penetrating the lost vault. So you will clearly see this, Masonic incursion on some of the one that's really the giveaway is the Apollo 13. That's the one I'm most familiar with. That's the one I talk in the book. But again, even with concepts of, within NASA, you have, within Freemasonry, you have incorporation of the sacred feminine, within the third degree, with this Egyptian goddess Isis, who in the Egyptian pantheon is the Egyptian dog star Sirius. She is also the moon. And of course, we have, the unification of the moon and the sun, with all the NASA missions. All the moon missions are Apollo, the sun god, Apollo. It's the unification of the sun and the moon. It's very Freemasonic. It's very esoteric, because, what you have going on in the Blue Lodge is, in the third degree ritual, you have a retelling of the entire Osirian cycle from Egypt, which involves Osiris, his virgin wife Isis, and their son child Horus. It's a lot of solar and lunar mythology going on. So of course, when you go to the moon, which is, the sacred feminine Isis, you want to name your rocket Apollo, the sun god. And Apollo 13, I documented in the book, the Apollo 13 mission is echoing this 13th degree rite called the Royal Arch of Enoch. It's the 13th in the Scottish Rite. It was the original 13th in the Rite of Perfection, which is the original high degree system, which both the York, which both the York Rite and the Scottish Rite come out of. The Royal Arch of Enoch is also in the York Rite ceremonial. It's the 7th degree in that. So yeah, I mean, you will see some definite Masonic incursion into NASA and its logos.
I'm watching Twitter here, and I'm gonna backpedal just a little bit.
Go ahead.
Which is this? Did the Knights Templar, and I want to get back to NASA, but I don't want this to get away from me on Twitter. Did the Knights Templar, did they actually possess the Grail? Let's start there.
We don't know, but I very much doubt it. When they're in the Holy Lands, they excavate the Temple Mount. This is where Solomon's temple originally sat, and where the second temple sat, and where Herod's temple sat. That was what was there when they got there. It's a Muslim mosque there now. It's the Dome of the Rock is what it is now, but there's also a Muslim mosque there as well. They Christianized it. They seem to excavate the Temple Mount, and they seem to come into possession of something. What that something is, we really don't know. We would be speculating. It could have been material wealth. To me, it's probably more Kabbalistic wisdom. It could have been a long-lost copy of the Book of Enoch. That's certainly possible. Whatever it was, it could have been, mystery school religion, teachings, sacred texts, things like that. We know that whatever it was, when they got back to Europe, all of a sudden, in Europe, across the countryside, these medieval Gothic cathedrals start popping up, with geometric perfection in them, incorporating things like the golden ratio, the Vesica Pisces, astronomical alignments. So it's clear to me that they must have had something. What that something is, we really don't know. But to me, it's probably more of a case of Kabbalistic wisdom than an actual. I mean, it could have been a relic also. That's certainly not out of the question. But to me, they definitely came back with some sort of esoteric Kabbalistic wisdom that they sequestered away.
Well, the travel of whatever it was that they found, I think they definitely found something. And you can also probably pluralize it and say they found things. But the route going out of Israel and then across Europe, possibly ending up at Rosslyn Chapel, and then you brought it up. You said Oak Island. It seems like a real, because we just don't know. And
Right.
if the end route was Oak Island, which is definitely possible, that is why we don't know, because we haven't solved Oak Island yet. And do you think that is where the Grail or any of the relics, is that the map? Is that the travel?
It's certainly possible, and what you have to look at to unlock this thing is this Royal Arch ceremonial. Is you have to understand what's going on in this Royal Arch ceremonial, what's going on in the Blue Lodge to unravel all these mysteries, because this is the key to unlocking all this. In the Blue Lodge ceremonial, in the third degree, I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible, but this is the key to this whole thing.
Okay.
Is in the third degree, the name of God is lost. There's a character who's killed. His name's Hiram Abiff. He's building Solomon's temple. He possesses what's called the Tetragrammaton, which is the name of God, and through this word, all wisdom is possible. And he knows what it is, and he's threatened to give it up, but he won't tell you what it is, so he's killed. And this is one of the morality lessons, that keep your word. In this Royal Arch ceremonial, in this high degree system, in the Blue Lodge, the word is forever lost. It's called the lost word of a Master Mason. They use a substitute word to convey it. In the higher degree ceremonial, this name is found. It's restored. It's in the ritual. Jewish temple builders are getting ready to build the second temple, which is known as the Temple of Zorobabel. And it's during this construction that they spring this trap door, and they discover the secret underground vault. And in this vault is this lost name of God and what's called the Pillars of Enoch, which all wisdom is inscribed, coming from Enoch's visitation in the afterworld, as discussed in the Book of Enoch. In the ritual as it is today, it's Jewish temple builders who found this. But if you understand the history of the high degrees, these higher degrees, which is originally this 25 rites of perfection, these were developed by the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, as part of the Counter-Reformation. And in the original ceremonial, this treasure vault is penetrated by the Knights Templar. And then you really start to have to ask yourself, is this trying to convey some sort of lost yet legitimate history, that what the Templars found there? Did they find some sort of secret name, Kabbalistic wisdom, which is what seems to be to me. Mm-hmm. But then you're right. I mean, you get into the Templars, the historical Templars. They're suppressed in 1307. They kind of disappear. They turn up in Scotland, help Robert the Bruce out. Rosslyn Chapel. A lot of people are not aware of this, but Rosslyn Chapel incorporates a lot of symbolism regarding the Second Temple of Zorobabel, which, here we go again with this ritual. Are they trying to tell you something? Mm-hmm. And then, they seem to disappear from Scotland. Well, where did they go from there? Where's an underground treasure vault hidden that's impenetrable? Would that be Oak Island? So, yeah, I mean, the Templars, seem like a likely candidate for this. Could they have constructed some sort of Enochian vault down there, that contains this treasure? It seems likely to me. It seems definitely possible. It's definitely in play. Is this sort of what these... See, if you had asked me this 14 years ago, and I would have told you these rituals are just made up. It's just an allegorical ritual made up. But when you really start studying this stuff, and you really start understanding the esoterica surrounding it, and especially with these higher degree rituals, you have to start asking yourself, are these things trying to convey some sort of lost yet forgotten history? And then when you get into the symbols and the philosophies coming out of it, and you'll see this everywhere. You'll see this Royal Arch, Masonic symbolism in the Federal District. You'll see it in Baltimore, Maryland. You said you want to talk about Hollywood. The first National Treasure movie with Nicolas Cage is the Royal Arch ceremonial. If you want to see the Royal Arch ritual played out on the big screen, watch the Royal Arch ceremonial, or watch the National Treasure movie. It's the recovery of the treasure vault underneath the Holy Land. When National Treasure, it's in New York. Under the Trinity Church there in New York. It's the secret vault of Freemasonry. This is the Royal Arch degree. It's the entire duplication of this ceremonial. So yeah, for the Templars, to go from Europe to Scotland to Oak Island with their treasure is certainly, I think, very possible.
What provoked the Pope to shut things down? And I guess the question is more direct. We know about the banking system and the amount of wealth and the land holdings with the Knights Templar, but what was the real reason for the Pope to pull the trigger and shut the Templars down?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at this. Again, it could be, what's the real reason? I mean, we may never know that. We know that the Templars amass a great deal of wealth. The King of France, Philip le Bel, was in debt to them and probably could never pay it back. The Templars were almost becoming too powerful for their own good. And again, you get into these concepts of astrotheology, the alignments of these cathedrals with the solstices, the equinoxes, different stars, constellations. It could have been a case where perhaps that they had uncovered concepts relating to some of the Egyptian overtones contained within Christianity, some of the astrological overtones contained within Christianity and Judaism as well, and in Islam as well. Could they have been sort of maybe holding this over the Vatican? That's very likely. I mean, it's possible. I can't tell you that's for certain, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. And yeah, by the early 1300s, they're very powerful. In a nutshell, the King of France and the Pope have had enough of these guys and put them out of business. The Templars seemed to know this was coming. Whatever this treasure was, they seem to have whisked it away. Out of the Templars that arrested, a lot of them are managed to flee and escape. I mean, they get the Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, but he's eventually burned at the stake. But a lot of the Templars seem to, if you want to follow their trail, it seems to lead to Scotland and to perhaps Oak Island.
Yeah, and I think all of us do. The amount of wealth that is reported that the Knights Templar had acquired, and the land holdings and everything, and they had something over the Vatican. It seemed like nobody could make them go away. It seemed to happen, it was Friday the 13th. It happened very quickly. The money seems to have disappeared. The land holdings were, what's the word that I want to use? They were absorbed, right?
Right.
So it just happened so fast when everybody talks about in throughout history and history books about the amount of power that they had, and they controlled the money, and they had the manpower and the strength. It happened so quick, and I don't understand how it happened, in one evening, Friday the 13th, and then it was over, and it just seemed to disappear and go underground in a day.
It's probably. I mean, I'm sure with the arrests. I mean, this was obviously well thought out by the Pope and by the King of France. I mean, they had planned this for a while. But again, it seems that the Templars probably caught wind of this, that this was coming down the pike, and whatever it was, like you said, the treasure, they seem to have scuttled this away. And they turn up in Scotland because they definitely help. I think this is pretty well documented. They definitely help Robert the Bruce at the Battle of Bannockburn. So they're in Scotland. And again, you got the whole connection with the Templars and Roslin Chapel. So yeah, I mean, it happens, and they had become too powerful for their own good. And again, they seem to have come into some sort of knowledge. The best way I could describe it is Kabbalistic, esoteric wisdom that they could have been holding over against the Vatican, that the Vatican did not want out there. They could have come across some ancient religious texts. This is very possible. That could have exposed some of these, some of this esoterica. So yeah, they're suppressed in 1307.
Does that knowledge from the original Freemasons, the original Knights Templar, does that knowledge, is it taught today in with the Knights Templar? Is there a shared knowledge from the original Knights Templar?
No, they just really take the name and the colors and the symbols. If you're talking about sort of like a Knights Templar incursion on Freemasonry, you can look at it twofold. In the higher degree system, the answer would be yes, because you definitely have concepts related to things like monarchy, papal rule, papal monarchy is probably a better word. The York Rite ends with the Templars. You will find concepts of divine citizenship in the higher degrees. And again, this is separate from the Blue Lodge, but this isn't surprising because the higher degree system was a creation of the Society of Jesus. In Blue Lodge Freemasonry, if you want to say there is a Templar incursion on Blue Lodge Freemasonry, the likely candidate, or the likely source for that would have been what's called mystical Islam or Sufism. And this would have been something they would have encountered in the Holy Land. And there are a lot of parallels with Blue Lodge Freemasonry and Sufism. You have a martyred architect. You have the concept of teaching morality through usage of symbols, non-solicitation of members. So, you could definitely potentially see a Templar incursion on the concept of Blue Lodge Freemasonry. This would be mystical Islam. And again, this is interesting because a lot of the works of the Sufi poets, such as like Omar Khayyam, he's the one that mainly comes to mind. They weren't known until after Freemasonry was created. So yeah, I mean, you could definitely see potentially this Sufi influence upon Blue Lodge Freemasonry, because there are a lot. I talk about it more in the book, but there are definitely a lot of parallels between the beliefs of the Sufis and some of the teachings of Blue Lodge Freemasonry.
What is the intention of symbolism in that? I don't think you can go anywhere in the United States, and not see a symbol on a building, on a street, on a bridge, somewhere. What is the reason for that? And a lot of it is, it's like hidden. What is the reason for that? And to have, is it to remind people of who built the city, of founding fathers, or is there a deeper meaning for that symbolism?
Well, when it comes to symbolism, just in general, there's usually a lot of meanings involved with the particular symbol. You read some of this Masonic literature. One thing with symbolism is there's always multiple explanations for the symbol. One is always what is called the exoteric explanation. This is just sort of the run-of-the-mill explanation. But then, of course, there's also the esoteric interpretation of it. A deeper meaning involved. In Masonry, you were taught morality through symbolic lessons, through the use of symbols, even the ritual. The third degree ritual is symbolic, and the symbols. When you get into concepts of the United States, a lot of the founding fathers are using these symbols and are using these morality devices to nation build. So, you will see a lot of Masonic symbols, a lot of Masonic incorporation into like city planning. You'll find a lot of, solar iconography, a lot of astrological iconography. This is coming more out of the higher degree system than it is in the Blue Lodge. But yeah, you will find this stuff being used. There is a theory behind it that it's divine, that these symbols are godly. In Washington, and there's the Hermetic maxim of as above, so below, which is that if you're going to build a building of import, you have to align it to its proper star system or constellation. The idea behind this is that you're symbolically drawing the stars and the planets and the constellations down from the heavens to Earth, and because they're closer to God, you're drawing God down to Earth and investing your building or your structure with a divine presence. That's the idea behind it. Whether it works or not is up to the person to decide. But again, this is coming out of Freemasonry. This is more of This is more of a, when you get into Freemasonry, this is more of an operative Masonic thing with actual, stone working and stone building. But you definitely have, this Hermetic influence, of as above, so below, which means that, if you're going to construct these buildings, these city templates, you want them aligned to their proper star systems or planets or the sun or the equinoxes. And, the Hermetic maxim comes from this character known as Hermes Trismegistus. And he's important in the Royal Arch Ceremonial and its underlying philosophies. He comes into Freemasonry. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to symbolism in general, there's always two meanings, and within Masonry, it's a way to teach morality, and that the symbols are actually, like living emblems of divinity and morality. Lessons that you're taught within the Blue Lodge.
Why the Egyptian look to temples and the obelisk and other direct references to Giza and Luxor? You can look at almost any Freemason lodge and feel it and see it. Why do that? And what's the message there?
Right. With Egypt, you in a lot of early Masonic literature, you will find references to Egypt. For example, in when the Grand Lodge is founded in 1717, shortly thereafter, a man named James Anderson writes the Constitutions of Freemasonry, where he traces Masonry's legendary history, and of course he gets into some of the Egyptian motif. He talks about measuring of the Nile River, and how this improved measuring and geometry and improved Freemasonry. Then you've got the Chevalier Ramsay's oration of 1737. He talks about Freemasonry being founded by the Templars and how they were influenced by these Egyptian mystery schools. And this is Masonry's real origin. Then there's another Mason named Martin Clare who writes a treatise talking about how the building of the pyramids, the people who built the pyramids were the forerunners of the Freemasons. But then you get into actually the rituals of Freemasonry, where in the Blue Lodge, for example, the Blue Lodge Masonic ritual, the third degree ritual, is a retelling of the Osirian cycle in Egypt. It's the dying and resurrected Sun Man, the solar Messiah, where the candidate portrays Hiram Abiff, who's building Solomon's temple. Hiram Abiff is steeped in solar mysticism and solar symbolism. He is symbolizing this Egyptian resurrected sun god known as Osiris, where Hiram Abiff is murdered. His body is buried under a sprig of acacia. That's a flower sacred to the sun god Apollo. He's buried west of the temple, representing the setting sun or death. When he's resurrected, he is resurrected on what's called the strong grip of a lion's paw. This is a reference to the constellation of Leo the lion, which is the sole house of the sun. And when he's brought back to life, he is met upon what's called the 5 points of fellowship. And this, of course, the 5 points are a reference to a pentagram. And if you read Albert Pike and you read my book, you'll know that the pentagram is symbolizing this Egyptian goddess known as Isis, who is the consort of Osiris. And the Egyptian parallel is what it's symbolizing on a very esoteric level is when the candidate is resurrected, he has this substitute word whispered in his ear. Remember, we said when Hiram Abiff is alive, he possesses this secret name, this lost word of a master mason, this name of God. These three ruffians try to extract it from him. He won't give it up. He's killed. When he's brought back to life, when the candidate's symbolically resurrected, brought from darkness to light, and this again echoes, themes of Gnosticism, being brought from darkness to light, your inner divine spark now being awakened. When he's brought back to life on what's called these 5 points of fellowship. This is a reference to the pentagram, what's called the blazing star of Freemasonry, which is this Egyptian dog star Sirius, which is Isis. And the nexus is that Isis, this virgin wife of Osiris, possessed this secret name of an Egyptian sun god named Amun-Re, and through this secret name of Amun-Re, she was able to resurrect Osiris. So Hiram Abiff is being resurrected the same way through this reference to Isis, through this substitute name of God that's whispered in your ear in a low breath, and it's a retelling of the Osirian cycle in Egypt. And of course, when Hiram Abiff is killed, You've heard this term before, that Freemasons are known as widows' sons, or sons of the widow. The widow that they're talking about is Isis, this Egyptian, goddess who is widowed upon the death of Osiris, who is Hiram Abiff. This is why Freemasons are widows' sons, or sons of the widow. The widow is this Egyptian goddess Isis, who becomes widowed upon the death of Osiris, who is Hiram Abiff in the Blue Lodge. And this also ties into why women cannot be joined, cannot become Freemasons, because once Osiris is resurrected, she births a solar child named Horus. And I'm gonna cut you off there for a second, because this story is fascinating to me. But I want to back up. Is this story, this version of the story, this is what is taught in Freemasonry? Are you tested on this? And this is. Oh, no. This is never told to you. This is presented to you through allegorical ritual. And you have to decode it on your own, as it were.
I got you. Okay, because there's another version of the story too as well, which Isis did the resurrecting. And when Osiris was killed, he was they trapped him in a sarcophagus, locked him up, poured lead on it. I believe the story goes, right? They sealed it up and threw him in the river. Yeah, threw him in the river. That wound up in a bunch of papyrus reeds. The tree grew over that, and Isis went out, found it, opened it back up, and she did the resurrection. So it's kind of it's a
parallel. It's a parallel going on in the lodge, that she's resurrecting the Mason by this 5 points of fellowship. That's the parallel you're looking for. She is symbolically resurrecting the Mason, and when he's resurrected, he's met on what is called the 5 points of fellowship, which is a pentagram, which is what is known as the blazing star. If you read Albert Pike, he'll tell you that is representing the Egyptian dog star Sirius, which was Isis in the Egyptian stellar pantheon. So yeah, it's a parallel of resurrection, that Isis is symbolically resurrecting you in the Blue Lodge, bringing you back to life, bringing back Osiris back to life, who in the Blue Lodge is called Hiram Abiff.
Right, and he wasn't actually brought back to life in his physical form. Wasn't he more of like a ghost? You know what I mean? It was like an image of him. I don't think as Isis, and I could be wrong,
Well, Osiris, yeah, he gets resurrected, and then he goes off. Osiris, when Isis resurrects him, he goes off to become this sort of solar deity of the dead.
Right.
Yeah, he goes into the afterworld, and becomes this sort of moderator of death, basically, the solar sort of Egyptian god of the afterlife, and he is replaced by his stand-in, who is known as Horus. That's sort of Horus basically takes Osiris's place, as it were.
And they actually, okay, I'm just going to be direct here. They didn't have sex. Horus just came to be as the sun. She didn't bore him. Am I making sense?
Yeah, well, she is the virgin birther of the sun. So, but it's an allegory, of course.
Right.
I mean, it's just an allegory. But she is, Isis is the virgin mother of the sun god Horus. The idea is she resurrects Osiris. By resurrecting Osiris, she births his solar stand-in known as Horus, and then Osiris is able to go off and rule the afterlife as sort of this solar ruler of the dead. And what Horus does at that point is he goes and tracks down Osiris's killer, who's known as Set or Typhon. And this is paralleled in Greco-Roman mythology, where Helios or Apollo goes and slays Python. And this is in Greco-Roman mythology. Apollo slays Python Oracle at Delphi, in the caverns of what becomes the Oracle of Delphi, which was dedicated to the sun god Apollo. And what you had going on at the Oracle of Delphi was beneath the caverns. This was where Python's body was said to be decaying, and his decaying body threw off these fumes that came up through the crevices. And this is what the Oracle inhaled to go into a frenzy to prophesize the future and things like that. Or give your fortune or something like that. And as legend goes, that this is where the name of Python, when Pythagoras' parents went to go to the Oracle, she told them, and I'd have to go look this up, but she told Pythagoras' parents that they would give birth to this great wise mathematician who would change the world. And the name Pythagoras, I actually believe, means the mouth of Apollo. And this is a reference to the Oracle of Delphi, which was dedicated to the sun god Apollo, where he slew Python, which in the Egyptian mythology is Horus slaying Typhon or Set, as the mythology goes.
I'm just going to respond to one of the tweeters here, Cortana. Mm-hmm. She just said, "Well, I'm trying to keep this family clean. There was a lot of things that went down with ISIS and."
I know where you're going with
it. And I'm just trying to keep all of that clean.
No, I think I'm going to anticipate this question, but go ahead.
Well, no, let's anticipate together and not go there. But
okay.
So I just want to let everybody know there's a whole nother part of this story that actually it involves phallic symbols and different things. And reportedly, and I want to jump ahead, with ISIS and with all of those male body parts that were made of gold, were reportedly showing up also in different churches across Europe too, hidden from the people attending the church and possibly even working at it. Does that symbolism also trickle back down into the Knights Templar and to Freemasons?
Well, no, not really. I mean, when you get into the Egyptian mythology, it's just a symbolic reinterpretation of the Osirian cycle. This is just the Blue Lodge ritual I'm talking about right now, which we're just talking about. I mean, there's an entered apprentice degree, fellowcraft, you get different stuff. But again, and I think this is sort of what I kind of suspect. With what you're talking about, like with this stuff being sequestered away.
Right.
It's you read some Masonic literature with this. When you go into the third degree, you have this death and resurrection thing. The sun, Hiram Abiff, Osiris being the resurrected sun. Hiram Abiff himself steeped in solar mysticism. I gave some of that away, or I talked about that. And then of course, you have the Virgin Mother birthing the sun. And then in the Masonic ritual, when Hiram Abiff goes missing, King Solomon dispatches 12 fellowcraft to go look for the body. And, of course, the 12 fellowcraft symbolize the 12 houses of the zodiac.
Right.
They're going looking for their lost solar ruler. So, I mean, if this is beginning to sound familiar within Christianity, I mean, you should this should start sounding familiar, where you have a sun god being birthed by a virgin mother who hangs around with 12 houses of the zodiac, known as the 12 apostles, who, oh, by the way, happens to be dead and resurrected, and who's known as the Son of God, and you can just flip the O and the U,
right,
we're right on that one, of course. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Masonic people, scholars will say, this looks eerily like Christianity, but then you got to take it one step further. It looks like Christianity, but it's in Masonry. It's a solar story, and of course, if you look at Christianity, at least the way it's told in the Bible, it's the same thing. It's the solar astrological story, and again, this something that the Knights Templar could have come into contact with their during their time in the Holy Land. Could they have come in contact with some sort of astrological wisdom? Very possible. I mean, this is suggested in the Book of Enoch. And I've talked that, and I mentioned this in the book, is this one of the reasons why the Book of Enoch was left out of the Holy Bible? Because in the Book of Enoch, there's an astrological book. Could this be like the solar astrological key that unlocks the New Testament? Very possible. You will find references to the Book of Enoch in the New Testament. The whole thing with Jesus being the Son of Man, that comes from the Book of Enoch. So yeah, I mean, this could have, this could have been something that's, was sequestered away in the church. That this wouldn't surprise me, at all, for the obvious reason.
With in the Masonic Blue Temple, once you're going through your very first, you're moving in, you're a pledge, you're in your first ritual. Is this reference to the death and resurrection, this ceremony that happens at that time, is that where the Egyptian views are presented, and is that where it all starts? Is it the very foundation from when you're a first degree, and is that? I guess the reference that I'm making is when it comes to Egypt and it comes to the buildings and the very foundation, and does it start on day one? Is that symbolism starting right there in that connection to Egypt?
No. When you go through the first degree, the entered apprentice degree, the entered apprentice degree is really more of an instructional degree. I mean, let me just say this to you. I mean, at no time in any Blue Lodge ritual is the word Egypt mentioned at all. You go through the first degree, which is entered apprentice, and that's really more of more of like a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? An introductory degree. Then you go through the fellowcraft degree. That's more of an explanatory degree. The third degree is really what you would call the esoteric or occult ritual, where you go through this allegory, but they don't tell you what it is. You go through it, and you won't think anything of it. Unless you're a Freemason and you sit down and read the Royal Arch of Enoch, Albert Pike, or Manly Hall, you will have no knowledge of this. It's up for the individual Mason to find out. You go through it, and then, if you do nothing else and you just walk away, you will have no clue as to what it is you just went through. And they don't know why they're doing it. A lot of times today, the Masons doing it, they don't know what this means. It's veiled. You read the Albert Pike book. The first thing he'll tell you is this ritual is designed to conceal, not reveal, even from yourself. So it's really up to the individual Mason, and not many of them do it. Some do. I did. Once you go through this and you just really start reading about esoteric symbolism and philosophy, this stuff will still remain, somewhat clueless to you.
And it also sounds to me, and this is what you're suggesting, so let's just try to get this single point of information out. It sounds to me when we look at civilization, and we're going back 3,000-4,000 years, there's not that many people on the planet. Stories all originate from somewhere. All religions, they seem to all have their roots in some very singular stories that you were just referencing. All of this. And is that what comes clear through Freemasonry, that all of this just started somewhere? All of the references, it doesn't matter if it's Islam or if it's Christianity or Catholicism or Hinduism, even Buddhism. Is that what you are suggesting, and is that what Freemason is suggesting to its members?
I think what one of the secrets that it's trying to conceal and reveal is in the third degree is this concept of the dying and resurrected Son Man, which is a Gnostic doctrine, but again, it's paralleling Christianity, and what it's trying to tell you is, and if you understand Masonry, Blue Lodge Masonry, the whole thing is based on the sun, and concepts of astrology, and the Blue Lodge itself is laid out on the sun. The worshipful master sits in the east, representing the rising sun. The junior warden sits in the south, which represents the sun at meridian or noonday when the sun's at strength, and the senior warden sits in the west, representing the setting sun. This is the triple division of governance in the Blue Lodge. This is where if you read the works of people like Athanasius Kircher, the Jesuits, this triple division of the Son is the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Father at dawn, the youthful Son at noon, and the Holy Ghost descending into the afterlife in the West at dusk, basically. So what Masonry is really, at least to me at any rate, I mean, there are very varying opinions on this. What Masonry, I think a lot of its rituals are trying to, reveal when you really start to study its esoterica is, this concept of astrotheology, the adoration of the stars, the adoration of the sun, which is really the oldest religion of them all. You will see the solar death and resurrection being played out in the Blue Lodge, and you will see these same astrological solar motifs going forward in the higher degree system, and you will definitely see it visible in the Royal Arch Ceremonial. Lots of solar and astrological references in that as well. And again, this echoes the Hermetic maxim of as above, so below, and this ties into the Royal Arch philosophical underpinnings with Hermes Trismegistus and Pythagoras and characters like that are all part of Masonic lore and legend. So I think that on a very deep esoteric level, this is something that these rituals are definitely trying to convey to the Mason. But it's really, once they're conveyed, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's up for the Mason at that point to kind of go decipher it on their own. The Blue Lodge will give you some instruction on it. You after you go through the rituals, you are given a brief lecture by the worshipful master. But the truth be told, you're kind of like shell shocked at that point, and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But when you go through the rituals, and then if you're interested, there are Masonic authors, myself included, who really get into the deep esoteric of what these rituals are trying to convey. And again, just real quick, Jimmy, there are different interpretations of this. The one we've been talking about is certainly a very valid interpretation. I think it's one of the real esoteric of it. But in the Blue Lodge, and this is another interpretation of the third degree ritual, and it's a very valid one, and I talked about it in the book, is the whole death and resurrection, or Hiram Abiff, is symbolic of the death and resurrection of the Stuart monarchy in England. The death of Hiram Abiff is the death of Charles I. The resurrection of Hiram Abiff is the restoration of Charles II. Right. The three murderers are the regicides: Oliver Cromwell, Henry Ireton, and a lot of the Freemasons in England who were developing the rituals were royalists during the English Civil War. People like Elias Ashmole. He wasn't developed the ritual, but he was an early Freemason who was part of the fraternity prior to 1717. So that's another historical interpretation of the ritual, and I think a very valid one at that.
How do you respond to researchers and critics of Freemasons and other authors that state that the Freemasons' goal is the one world order, the new world order, a one world government, and that their ultimate goal is to take over things? Right.
Well, you do have, and I talked about this in the book, in the Royal Arch book, you do have a formulation through Freemasonry of really what is called a new world order. This wouldn't be world control or domination or anything like that. What you have going on is the founders of this country, and it's really a man named DeWitt Clinton, is really the guy who's doing this. He is a very important Freemason in American history. He's been completely written out of our history books. What he's doing is using Freemasonry and its teachings to formulate a new world order in the United States. But of course, for the Masons and for the founders of this country, the new world order was not global control or global domination. It was simply a departure of the old world order, which would have been European monarchies and the Vatican. So what these guys are trying to formulate is this new democratic republic, a new world order based on the teachings of Freemasonry. But again, it's not world control or world domination. It's a departure of the old world European system of a state-sponsored religion, i.e. the Vatican, and of a monarchy. They knew what they didn't want. They knew they didn't want a monarchy, and they knew they didn't want a state-sanctioned religion at the expense of someone else's beliefs. So a formulation of a new order of the ages, as it says, on the back of the Great Seal. This new order would have been, for the Founding Fathers, this new democratic republic known as the United States, a new order of the ages, a new order for the new world. But it wasn't any sort of thing of world control or global domination. But that's what it was intended. But I'm familiar with that Freemasonry wants to take over the world. I've been involved with it for years. I've never seen anything like that, or anything. I will tell you that Freemasonry has been very influential in the development of this country. And again, I talk about it in the book. Which I basically describe the United States as a Masonic republic. That is irrefutable. But, in a nutshell, I don't think there is any sort of agenda within Freemasonry to take over the world. Or now you do get in concepts of the Illuminati. They were a real group. And you will definitely see an Illuministic incursion into the United States in the early days of the Republic. And again, this is coming through this man named DeWitt Clinton, who's actually accused of being in the Illuminati. But again, I'd have to do a lot of backpedaling on American history. But as crazy as this is going to sound, Clinton would have seen this as a positive influence, not necessarily a negative one, because what he was really doing was, and I'm really condensing the answer here, was he would have been using Freemasonry, well, he was using Freemasonry and sort of these Illuministic doctrines to end political rancor between the Federalists and the Jeffersonian Republicans in the early days of this country. He was trying to foment unity between these two groups rather than division, and he was using Freemasonry to do this. Unfortunately, in the mid-1820s, there was something known as the William Morgan Affair, which kind of undid this, where Freemasonry when this was sort of exposed, and Freemasonry went from being looked at as this patriotic order that founded the United States as being looked at this secret cabal that was pulling the strings from behind the scenes and implementing policy without the people's consent. And Freemasonry suffered a devastating backlash because of it. And because of this, really, this backlash, Freemasonry survives the onslaught, but it emerges at this point as really a philanthropic charity organization. And in order to survive, it has to distance itself from sort of its esoteric tradition because it was being viewed as this sort of black cabal. So Masonry survives it, but it emerges really as a philanthropic organization and a distancing itself from its esoteric origins. And this was really the tradition that went through the 19th century all the way through the 20th century. However, the pendulum seems to be flipping back towards more of an esoteric tradition. But yeah, there is clearly, ideas of a new world formulation, a new world order, and even an incursion of Illuminism, what you would call political Illuminism, coming into the United States in its early days. I talk about that in the book.
The book is The Royal Ark of Enoch, and all of the links are there at jimmychurchradio.com. You can just click on Robert's name, and it'll take you right over to that website. Now, are there any heads of state that are Freemasons outside of the United States?
Yeah, there have been.
Today, right now.
Right now, I couldn't give you a roll call. No, I don't know of any off the top of my head. In the past, sure, loads of them.
You're a 32nd degree. You guys get the newsletter every month.
Yeah, there mustn't be any right now because I would probably be aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually when that happens, you get a front page or an article in the Scottish Rite Journal or something about it.
Right.
But yeah, since there hasn't been any in a while, Cameron, I don't think he is. I know Obama's not. Yeah, none jump off the page at me right now.
That's interesting. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to jump into cinema symbolism and your new book, and I can't wait to talk about this. And it's the way this show goes sometimes, Robert. You never know where the conversation is going to end up, and And I thought we were going to talk about Hollywood all night, and I apologize for that. But that's
all right.
That's what we do here. So, go ahead.
Yeah. No, just real quick. It's in the final chapter of the Royal Arch of Enoch. I do some of the Masonic symbols and stuff like that. So we'll start off with that. That's always a good talking point.
Absolutely. All right. So we're talking to Robert W. Sullivan IV. This is Fade to Black on a Wednesday night, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
This is William from La Crescenta, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Jimmy Church.
My name is Alan, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
He's always giving it to you straight.
JimmyChurchRadio.com on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio, the Revolution.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Follow us on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. That's what you do. It's simple. At JChurchRadio. Hashtag DMRadioNet. I've got my tweet deck. I sit here, and it just pops off all night long. It's great. So, at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email to Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. We're talking to Robert W. Sullivan IV. And now, also, Robert, maybe sometime this hour we can take a couple of phone calls, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Okay, great. Okay, so the new book, Cinema Symbolism, A Guide to Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies. We were talking earlier today about Freeman and this subject and a couple of movies that are out now. And before we jump into it, and we talked about symbolism right before the break, the one thing that I find bizarre, and you can find this all over YouTube, is you can find a compilation of video clips of Freemason symbols and Illuminati symbols too as well, in the background, on T-shirts, on cars, on trucks, on buildings. It seems like there isn't a movie today that isn't released in Hollywood that's got something somewhere in it. And my question is, why?
Well, I think the answer to some of this is probably a little more mundane than it might be. There is some very, very esoterically and adroitly concealed symbolism and mythology and references in some popular movies. But I think a lot of times when you get into things like eyes and pyramids and things like that, I think a lot of times the motivation is that the movie makers are doing this intentionally to stir up the conspiracy world. I think they're putting them there in some instances to be agent provocateurs, to stir people up, to get people talking about this. Hey, look at that. Is this some sort of Illuminati movie or something like that? This goes back you could find astrological and occult mentions in the works of William Shakespeare. Mozart's Play the Magic Flute has a lot of Masonic and Illuminati overtones to it. It's very provocative material. I see some of this as stage production managers, video producers who are familiar with some of this material. We have to bear in mind that a stone's throw from Hollywood is Manly Palmer Hall's Philosophical Research Society, which is just a library of nothing but occult books on occult symbols. So, would it be unreal to suspect some of these guys don't go down there and check some of this out? Sure, of course they do. But I think in some instances, when you get into this this stuff. I think it's being put there just for that reason, just to get people talking about it, just to stir up, get people talking, get people to make videos about it. Beyonce flashing the eye in the triangle. I think she did that at one of the Super Bowl appearances.
Yep.
Katy Perry now dressed up as an Egyptian goddess in one of her videos. To me, this is just more of a use of this stuff as a vehicle to be agent provocateurs than it is of evidence of some sort of secret Hollywood cabal or something like that. That's the way. Now, don't get me wrong. There is some very uncanny cinema symbolism going on in some movies, esoteric symbolism. But I think some of that stuff, can just be written off as just trying to stir people up, get people talking, get people into chat rooms. At the end of the day, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So, I think some of it is chalk. So as to why, I think some of it is just to get people, seeing this stuff and get people talking about it, just at any level possible.
Okay, well, you say some of it. Okay, what about the rest of it?
Well, now some of it is now some of the rest of it is a different story. Some of it is very esoterically concealed. Some of this stuff is revealed through numerology, through symbolism going on in the movies. Sometimes the author of the book, if the movie is based on a book, a lot of times the author will be very influenced by the esoteric. I think of The Wizard of Oz screams off the page. That is the Wizard of Oz has a lot going on in it on two levels. L. Frank Baum, who wrote the story, he was a member of Madame Blavatsky's Theosophy Society. That was a sort of a neo-Gnostic group in the 19th century. The guy who wrote the Wizard of Oz was in that. The Wizard of Oz has two levels of allegory going on in it. One is a socio-political allegory that you have to be familiar with, late 19th, early 20th century politics that is being explained in that. Then you also have the initiation into the mystery tradition, initiation into Gnosticism, going on in The Wizard of Oz, where you have the girl Dorothy Gale basically going on an initiatic experience to discover her true inner meaning, which for her is the revelation that there's no place like home. And you will see this, symbolism going on in the movie and in the book. On the political allegory, you have, like, for example, this is the political allegory. The Wizard of Oz is President William McKinley, and what he wanted to do was use paperback money, to use the gold standard to back paperback money. And of course, this is why the yellow brick road leads to the Emerald City, which is paper money. And then in the book, there was a thing going on at the time called the Free Silver Movement. In the book, the shoes that Dorothy is given are silver. They're not ruby, and they are in the movie. The silver slippers represent the Free Silver Movement. The scarecrow is American farmers who were suffering under a depression. The Tin Man is American laborers who were suffering from the Depression of 1896. And it's interesting because one of the few industries that was able to survive this depression was the oil companies, and they were the ones who put the laborers back to work. This is why Tin Man needs oil to get him moving again. It's the American laborer going back to work. The Cowardly Lion is Eugene Debs and Williams Jennings Bryant, who were McKinley's Democratic opposers, and they were all bark but no bite. They had a loud roar, but they did nothing. That's why they're Cowardly Lions. They had no bite whatsoever. And in the movie, the Wicked Witch is green. This is the negative side of paper money, inflation. That's why she's green. McKinley was a Freemason. And when Scarecrow at the end of the movie is given his brain, which is the diploma, what's the first thing he does? He cites back the 47th proposition of Euclid to the Freemason. The 47th proposition of Euclid is the Pythagorean theorem, which is the emblem of a Masonic worshipful master. And this ties into the whole concept of the Wizard of Oz being an initiatic experience. in the initiation into the mysteries, like in Mithra, you will see the ladder of initiation. This is echoing concepts of Gnostic essentio or apotheosis, where in order to achieve enlightenment, you have to move upwards and downwards on this symbolic ladder to achieve enlightenment. Dorothy is whisked away by the tornado, which is the winding staircase of the mysteries, the ladder of Minerva, the ladder of Mithras. She's taking upwards on her ascension to this magical land of Oz, where she goes through. She's on the golden path of enlightenment, which is the yellow brick road, which she discovers leads to the false demiurge or the lesser god of Gnosticism, who is all hot air. And she finally, returns to the real world with this esoteric wisdom, but no one understands where she's been. And this is echoed in the book. It's suggested in the movie. The witches, the two witches in Oz who use the white Kabbalistic magic are of the north and south, symbolizing Gnostic ascension, moving upwards. The two women who use the black magic, they're of the east and west, symbolizing stagnation, because you can't achieve essentio by moving left and right. You can only achieve it by moving north and south. So that's why the witches are of the east and west. The one witch is, of course, killed right off the bat when the house falls on her. So, yeah, I mean, you will clearly see a lot of these esoteric symbols going on in The Wizard of Oz.
Well, let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you and I are about the same age. Now, you remember back in the 60s when it was like once a year the Wizard of Oz was played on network television. It was like an event when you were a kid. Oh, the Wizard of Oz is on next week,
right?
Okay. And so when you were young, you're 5 years old, you're 4 years old, you're assembling with the family, and everybody's gathering around the TV because Wizard of Oz is playing. Did any of this symbolism or any of this craziness, these underlying tones in the film, did any of it affect you? Did you see anything in a strange way when you were young?
Oh no, I didn't see it in a strange way. I didn't really become aware of some of these symbolisms until I was researching this book. There are some movies that will kind of, with like the Wizard of Oz, if you just look at it on its face value, it's just, a girl gets whisked away to a magical land and has an adventure and then goes back home. And this would be, kind of the exoteric explanation of it, but the esoteric symbolism is this twofold political, allegory. And then there's a concept of initiation, which, you'll see it, the initiation ritual of a young woman experiencing gnosis and going to a magical land. This is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold is the same story. And again, the little girl in the Lovely Bones adventure is happening in the afterlife after she dies, but it's the same. It has the same elements in it, and I talk about that in the book. And it's very adroitly concealed. You have to be familiar with a lot of themes of Manichaean Gnosticism, the Valentian strain of Gnosticism, astrotheology, the Egyptian Osirian cycle, some Rosicrucianism. When you're familiar with those doctrines, you'll be able to pick up on these themes a lot more. And like I said, if you were, some of these movies, if you were to see the symbol maybe once, you think, oh, okay, there's nothing to it. But, some of these movies are just overloaded with these themes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very adroitly concealed. And it's much more deeper than eyes and triangles in the background. It's times of days, the weather outside, believe it or not, there are occult actors cast for occult reasons.
Stop right there.
Right.
Okay. Give me an example of that. An occult actor cast for occult reasons.
Oh, one of the best ones I can think of is a actress, and this is in the first Star Wars movie, and I mean the one, not Episode 4, The Phantom Menace, the one that came out in 1999. This is the one where the Darth Vader is the little boy running around. This is the one where Liam Neeson is the Jedi Knight in it. This is The Phantom Menace. Anakin Skywalker, I'll get to the casting in a minute, but you need a little background on it. Anakin Skywalker, the character of Anakin Skywalker, is Jesus Christ. Anakin Skywalker is virgin birth. He is the chosen one. You're either with him or against him. He's rejected by the temple elders, and he wants to use his occult powers to stop people from dying. And like Jesus, Anakin Skywalker is dead and resurrected. For Anakin, it's Darth Vader. For Jesus, he goes into the afterlife. In Phantom Menace, this is one of my favorite castings. The woman who plays Anakin Skywalker's mother is an actress named Pernilla August. And if you remember the scene in it, there's a scene where Liam Neeson's, he's the Jedi Knight, he's talking to the mother. Her name is Shmi Skywalker. That was Anakin Skywalker's mother. He's talking to him, and he says, "Oh, the Force is, unusually strong with your son. Who's the father?" And she says, "Oh, there isn't a father. He just happened. He's virgin birth." Interestingly, Pernilla August, who plays Anakin Skywalker's virgin mother, in the same year of 1999, actually played the Virgin Mary in a made-for-TV movie called Mary, the Mother of Jesus, where Pernilla August played the Virgin Mary. In the movie, Jesus was played by Christian Bale, who went on to play Batman in the Dark Knight movies. But yeah, clearly Lucas's casting of Pernilla August is suggesting of the Virgin Mary, and of course Anakin is virgin birth. He's this Jedi Messiah who's going to bring balance to the universe. This messianic character, and it's one of my favorite occult castings. Casting this woman who played the Virgin Mary to play Anakin Skywalker's virgin mother in the Phantom Menace. She's killed off in the second one by the Tusken Raiders. And this is what apparently leads Anakin down, the darker side, the darker path. But yeah, the parallel, Anakin Skywalker is what in cinema is called, this comes out of the word of Carl Gustav Jung. He's the savior archetype. And the Anakin Skywalker character is echoing Jesus Christ in the Star Wars trilogies. This is the first, second, and third ones, of course.
Okay. Can you give me another example?
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony Zerbe in the Omega Man is talking to. He is the leader of the cult group known as the Family.
Right.
Right, and he's talking to his brothers. He's the mutated creature, and he's talking to the other albino zombies about how he wants to destroy mankind. For him, who is the last bastion, is the Charlton Heston character, the Omega Man.
Mm-hmm.
He is, and this is where Heston's living in the city, and he's living in the apartment that's like a super fortress to keep Zerbe and the Family out. They can only come out at night because they're albinos, they're semi-mutated, and all Zerbe wants to do is destroy Charlton Heston, and that's his whole thing is let's get rid of this last bastion of mankind, and kill him. Zerbe is interestingly cast in The Matrix Reloaded as one of the leaders of Zion, and he has this exact same conversation with Neo or Keanu Reeves, only it's dualistically reversed, where he wants to save mankind from the machines. And it's really an interesting casting call by the Wachowski brothers to cast
I didn't
Zerbe.
even realize that, but you are exactly right.
Yeah,
you are exactly right.
It's one of the best dualistic. The whole Matrix movies are Gnosticism. It's dualistic Gnosticism from start to finish. And the casting of Zerbe, when I was watching that, I thought, where have I heard this before? And it hit me like a bolt of lightning. It's his complete. If you take his dialogue from the Omega Man and reverse it, you will have that exact dialogue in The Matrix Reloaded, and it is uncanny when you become aware of it.
I'm looking at some notes here, and you know where I'm going with this. Excalibur Arthurian Legends as a solar allegory.
Right. This was what I emailed you the other day.
Yes.
And it's good. It's good just to bring this up. The book that's out right now is Symbolism. This was literally released last week. This book is brand new. It's an extension of the Royal Arch of Enoch, This was the first book I wrote, which we were talking about previously in the show. The final chapter in the Royal Ark, I was compelled to write about some Masonic, solar, and Enochian symbolism I was seeing in cinema, and some of the movies I talk about, and I know you got the list there in front of you, was Excalibur, which is a solar allegory. I'll get to it in a minute. The Being There movie with Peter Sellers, I revisit this in Cinema Symbolism. That's another solar allegory. The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp is Hebrew Kabbalah. The two National Treasure movies, and these are Walt Disney movies, and I know he's real, popular with all this stuff. Those are Masonic from start to finish, and it's not what you think it is. The first National Treasure movie is the Royal Arch of Enoch ritual. If you want to see the ritual on screen, that's the movie to watch. The Excalibur movie, the Arthurian legend is a solar allegory. King Arthur is the sun. The knights that assist him are the 12 houses of the zodiac. There's usually 12 of them. Sometimes there's 24, representing the nighttime and daytime phases of the zodiac. But really Excalibur, if you want to see these solar allegories and these astrological allegories on screen, in the Arthurian legend, Excalibur is by far and away the best movie to see this in.
Now, you're talking about the original one with Liam Neeson and Helen Mirren?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Helen Mirren was the mother of Mordred. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I mean, if you read the Royal Arch of Enoch book, I go into a complete solar astrological interpretation of this where, I'm just running all, the Da Vinci Code's another one that has a lot of numerological symbolism related to Royal Arch Freemasonry. In Excalibur, King Arthur is the sun. The knights go looking for the Holy Grail. The knights are the houses of the zodiac. The Holy Grail is the picture of Aquarius that is found by Percival, who's the sign of Aquarius. He brings Arthur is the sun in death and decay. Aquarius makes him drink from the water pitcher, or the Holy Grail. Arthur is reborn and the land with him. That's the riddle. And remember, when he rides out of the tomb or the castle or the land, spring arrives. That's the symbolic rains. That's, the Aquarius pouring the water pitcher out at the end of January, start of February, is symbolizing the coming spring rains at the vernal equinox when the land is reborn. That's when Arthur rides out of the tomb. The sun, the enemy's sun, the sign that always causes death and decay for the sun is the sign of Scorpio. That's my sign. This is the Typhon in the Egyptian mysteries is Scorpio. In Christianity, Judas Iscariot is Scorpio. In the Arthurian legend, Mordred, the renegade knight, he's originally one of the 12 houses of the zodiac, or one of the 12 knights of the Round Table. In Excalibur, he's not. But Mordred is wearing the golden armor, symbolizing the sun in the house of Scorpio. Mm-hmm. And this is in Excalibur. And, of course, Mordred never carries a sword. He carries the scorpion stinger, which is the spear.
Right.
That symbolizes the house of Scorpio. So that's just some of the but there's much more to it. But yeah, if you want to watch, if you really want to see the astrological symbolisms in the Arthurian legend, Excalibur is by far and away the best movie for it.
I've got to, and we're quickly running out of time. We have to talk about Back to the Future. Let's talk about Let's talk about all three. Certainly, as far as time travel movies go, to me, some of the best stuff, and I watch them all the time. I think, it's what's funny. What's funny for me, most people discount Back to the Future 3. I'll say it on the record right now. I think that's one of the better ones. It's really hard to remake a film. I don't want to get off track here. But I'll say it right now. I'm a fan of Back to the Future, all three movies. And it's heavy Egyptology in the movies and numerology in the movies. So let's start with Back to the Future Part 1.
You want to go now, or are we taking a break? Oh, okay, no, we're not good.
Yeah, we're good.
The Back to the Future movies, Part 3 has probably the least amount of esoterica in it. It's kind of a remake of the first one, only you will have this dualistic notion of role reversal in it, where Marty is now the stoic scientist, and Doc Brown is the lovesick teenager. the character of Mary Steenburgen, the astronomer Claire Clayton, she actually is symbolizing a real-life female astronomer named Maria Mitchell, who was one of the in the late 19th century, was a real famous female astronomer, and of course, in the movie, the character of Claire Clayton was into astronomy as well. You will see. In the first Back to the Future movie, and in the second one, it's the Egyptian Osirian cycle retold. It's veiled, but you have the character of George McFly, who would equate to Osiris. You have his solar child, who is Horus. That would be Marty, and then you have his wife Isis, which would be Lorraine. And of course, being a solar Egyptian family, they live where else but in Lion Estate. And this is, of course, a reference to Leo the Lion, the soul house of the sun. The character of George, who is Osiris, is in part 2. And of course, who's the enemy of of Osiris, Isis, and Horus? It's, of course, Typhon, who is, of course, Bif Tannen. I mean, their names are the same thing. This is the arch enemy of the Egyptian solar family. Of course, in part 2 of Back to the Future, Osiris, or George, is killed by Typhon, or Tannen, which is correct. And it's Marty who resurrects him, with the aid of Isis or Lorraine, when he goes back in time to whatever was 1955 to resurrect Osiris. So George is sort of this dying and resurrected Osirian figure. But you have a lot of solar, there's a lot of Egyptian mythology going on with this. Bif Tannen in part 2, as Typhon rides around in the Luxor cab company. This is another Egyptian reference. You have Smarty as the solar child, as the solar hero archetype. The DeLorean itself is symbolic of a sun chariot. This comes straight out of Jewish mysticism, of the sun chariot of Apollo, of the Maïs Merkaba, which is a branch of Jewish mysticism. And of course, in part 1, the sun chariot has to be, and when he goes back in time to 1955, this is in part 1, the virginal Isis, or Lorraine, confuses Horus with Osiris. She gets her brother husband mixed up with her solar son. This is why she falls in love with Marty, or Horus. But we're told over and over again that in order to return to 1985, the lightning's going to strike the clock tower at 10:04. At 10:04. And of course it does, and the car shoots the flames off, and it leaves the fire tracks behind, as any sun chariot would. But what's the symbolism going on with 10:04? That is a very adroitly concealed solar reference. 10:04 at night is a reference to a date. It's a reference to October 4th, which is of course the 10th month and the 4th day. October 4th on the solar calendar, on the Gregorian solar calendar, is the 276th day, which means there are 88 days left in the solar year. This ties into why the sun chariot has to be activated at 88 miles an hour. You have to invest the sun chariot, with this solar symbolism in order to get it to, at 88 miles an hour. It's a very adroitly concealed solar reference, so that the sun chariot can now break at 88 miles the space-time continuum and return the sun child back to 1985. So the time of day of 10:04 is a very adroitly concealed solar reference. And of course, Marty, being the sun, being the solar hero, has a girlfriend named Jennifer. The name Jennifer is a hardened Germanic version of the name Guinevere, who is the lunar queen of King Arthur. So, as all good sun heroes have, they have a lunar sister or a lunar girlfriend. So Marty, being the sun hero, the sun child Horus, has the lunar girlfriend of Jennifer, which is a name of Guinevere, the lunar queen of King Arthur. This is the white queen and the red king. King Arthur being the red king, the sun. The white queen is Guinevere, the moon. This is why Luke Skywalker, whose name literally means the sun walks across the sky. Luke comes from the Latin lux, meaning light, and of course, what light walks across the sky? The sun. Luke Skywalker is the solar, savior, and has the lunar sister Leia, who wears the white robes of the moon. Same sort of mythology going on here. Or what do they do battle with? The Sith Lords. This is the Lords of Set, the Egyptian, enemy of the sun, or Typhon in the, known to Typhon as to the Greco-Romans. So getting back to the Future, you will clearly see this symbolism going on. You have with Doc Brown, he is this Hermes Trismegistus wizard type of character. Brown is interestingly, not only does he parallel and imply the Hermetical wizard, the modern day Prometheus who can draw lightning down from the sky. He is symbolic of a Jungian archetype known as the Hierophant, which is the 5th card of the tarot. And if you're familiar with this card, Aleister Crowley wrote upon this and said that the Hierophant card is the master of time and space. And of course, Brown himself is the master of time and space, having invented the time machine. And the tarot being, the Hierophant is the 5th card, and Brown is surrounded by the number 5, having developed the space-time continuum on November 5th, 1955. This is suggesting this Jungian archetype coming off of this tarot card. Brown, on another level, interestingly, also parallels the United States President Ronald Reagan. Both, and you'll see this in film from time to time where the presidents turn up esoterically concealed. William McKinley is the Wizard of Oz. We talked about him. Forrest Gump is Bill Clinton. Doc Brown is Ronald Reagan. Brown, like Reagan, both achieve their success in the mid-1980s. Reagan is president, Brown for time travel. Both Brown and Reagan are from California. Both of them do battle with Libyan terrorists. And Brown, like Reagan, are ultimately turned into legends of the Old West. So you will see a parallel with Ronald Reagan going on there as well. And both Brown and Reagan also narrowly survive assassination attempts. So you'll see that going on. Zemeckis is good with this. Zemeckis directed the Back to the Future movies. He did Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is Bill Clinton. The movie that came out a couple years ago, Flight, starring Denzel Washington. The character of Whip Whitaker is Barack Obama. I'm trying to think of some of the other presidents in film. Rooster Cogburn in True Grit is Lyndon B. Johnson. There's a couple others. They escape me right now. But yeah, the Back to the Future movies has a lot of Egyptian symbolism in it, a lot of numerological symbolism in it, a retelling of the Egyptian Osirian cycle in parts 1 and 2, the death and resurrection of the Sun Man. It's esoteric. It doesn't really deal with Egyptian mythology, but it's good stuff. The Back to the Future movies will really play with your sense of space-time. For example, if you're paying attention to these movies, the opening of the first Back to the Future movie is actually the end of it. When they are purveying Doc Brown's timepieces, you will see a drunkard. One of the time clocks has a drunkard lifting a bottle of booze to his mouth. This is red at the end of the movie when Marty comes back and greets Marty. Then they'll pan to another clock, and you'll see a man dressed as Brown hanging off the clock hand. This is Brown at the end of the movie hanging off the clock face for dear life. And then it pans over to Brown's alarm clock, and you got to pay attention to the ad that's being played when Brown's alarm clock goes off. It's an ad for Statler Toyota dealership, who play a huge role in these trilogies. Most people aren't aware of this. Statler Toyota is where Marty gets his 4x4 from at the end of Back to the Future Part 1. He sees it with Jennifer near the beginning of the movie. He says, check out that 4x4. When they flash, it says another, it says from Statler Toyota. And when they're playing the ad, it says, October is inventory time at Statler Toyota. And of course, this is foreshadowing the end of the movie where Marty gets the truck from Statler Toyota. If you really are really paying attention to this, pay attention to Part 3 when Marty McFly goes back in time to 1885 and walks into Hill Valley. The first thing he sees is a sign that says, Honest Joe Statler, fine horses bought, sold, and traded.
Right.
This is a reference to the ancestor of the Toyota dealership. That's very adroitly concealed. There's some neat things going on with the Twin Pines Mall with the launch of the vehicle. This Kabbalistically changes for a reason. If you want me to, I'll just go into it real quick. when Marty arrives at the shopping mall. This is in part one. Doc Brown tells him, he says, meet me at Twin Pines Mall for this experiment. When he gets there, you'll clearly see on the sign it says Twin Pines Mall. Then Brown explains to him that all this land was owned by old man Peabody, and he had this crazy idea about breeding pine trees. Then Marty gets whisked back to 1955, and he's at Peabody's farm. And when he leaves, you'll see the mailbox. It says Peabody on it, and there's 2 fenced-in pine trees. And Marty runs over one of them in the DeLorean and kills it. And you'll hear Peabody yell out, you killed my pine, meaning you ruined my experiment. Well, when Marty goes back at the end of the movie, pay attention to the shopping sign, name of the shopping center. It's now the Lone Pine Mall.
Right.
Because, Marty has killed the one pine tree off. I thought that was kind of a neat little, esoteric symbol. Part 1 and 2 also has this. You got to pay attention to where the stores are in the town. In part 1, you'll see this in the background, and this ties into Gnostic themes of dualism and again role reversal, where in part 1 you'll see the shop in the background. Marty and Jennifer stand in front of it. It's called the Third Eye, and its symbol, of course, is the eye in the triangle. The back of the $1 bill, and you'll briefly see the store window. It's a fortune teller in there,
right?
And it's a person who prophesies the future. When Marty goes forward in part 2 to 2015, that building is there in the 2015 version of Hill Valley, only now it's called Blast to the Past. So in 1985, it saw the future. In 2015, it houses relics of the past. This is where the Sports Almanac comes from. So you got this little kind of dualistic twist there with where the building, what's going on in what building. Pay attention to that in the Back to the Future movies. That's always really kind of interesting.
The book is called Symbolism, A Guide to Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies. Again, the links are at jimmychurchradio.com for Robert's books. Now, I was going to take a break at the bottom of the hour. I'm not. I'm going to ask you 1 or 2 parting questions. Thank you for hanging on for an extra segment with us tonight, by the way, Robert. I really appreciate that.
Oh, sure.
This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. And you can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You know what to do there. Okay, before I let you go, in listening to your descriptions of movies, Wizard of Oz and Back to the Future and The Matrix and so forth, and Excalibur, what's it like for you to go to the movies? Are you fun to go with? Do you enjoy a movie first just for what it is and then go back and tear it apart, or are you like this out of the gate?
Well, no. Usually, a lot of times, I will watch a movie and just enjoy it, But usually, I will start to pick up on some stuff, that's going on. And again, not all movies have it. The works of Quentin Tarantino, I can't find anything going on in his movies. I've seen most of them. Tim Burton's another one. I've watched most of his movies. Doesn't seem to be much going on in them. I'm not saying I don't like them, but not every movie has this. But yeah, I mean, you get into some, and when you get into this esoteric symbolism, and you get familiar with concepts related to alchemy and transmutation, and there's 4 medieval color schemes associated with this. When you start looking into movies where you have to deal with, and I'm not talking about movies that actually are about people base metal into gold, right. But when you have movies about people transmuting themselves and changing, these color schemes will appear perfectly timed.
What about, let me throw a couple of more directors out at you. What about Wes Anderson? Is he clean?
Give me who's a couple of his. Is he a horror director?
No. Wes Anderson. He did Rushmore, The Life Aquatic.
I've never seen any of those. Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so he's clean. I was hoping he was clean.
I can't say it. I don't know any.
What about Robert Rodriguez?
Yeah, I don't see much going on with him.
Okay, and then let's go to I'm going to leave Kubrick for last. What about?
Kubrick.
Yeah.
What about Godfather?
Yeah, I know.
No, the Godfather. The guy who has the most of all of them is Darren Aronofsky.
Oh, really?
I mean, the material of Black Swan is so overwhelming. I actually had to cut it in half, and I put half of it in Cinema Symbolism. I'm writing its sequel right now called Cinema Symbolism 2, and I had to put the rest of it in that because I could sit here and talk to you for 5 hours on that thing.
Okay, well then we'll save that for another show. What about Spielberg?
Oh yeah. No, Spielberg has stuff in it.
And
Spielberg stuff has stuff.
And Kubrick?
Oh yeah, good grief. I mean, Kubrick is one of those fringe sort of characters. The theory with the main driving force with Kubrick is, and some of it's not necessarily him because he's doing some movies based on authors' books. But what you have going on with Kubrick is, where you start with Kubrick is 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is the apotheosis of mankind. Then you have The Shining, which is its polar opposite, which is the descent of mankind into madness and savagery. The idea, The Shining, there's 2 levels going on in The Shining. You actually have 3 levels going on in The Shining. One I'm not ready to buy into yet, but I'll talk to you about it. The Shining, in of itself, you have some esoteric symbolism going on with the Overlook Hotel and Kubrick's color schemes. You also have an alchemy story going on in this, where the character of Jack Torrance is undergoing this negative transmutation, and you'll see this with these color schemes. I won't have time to get into it right now, just because we're running out here. But if you pay attention to it, you will have these color schemes going on. That is symbolizing this alchemical transmutation, for the Jack Torrance characters, turning into a psychopath, for lack of a better word, a murderer, for what it is.
Right.
But then you have, with like the Overlook Hotel, you have Kubrick playing around with the concept of the United States of America, where you have the Overlook is the darker, the Jungian shadow of the United States, which is opulent. All the best people hang out there. It's wealthy. It's where all the wealthy people come to go. But where's it buried? It's buried over the Indian burial ground. And this is symbolizing the United States' takeover of the Indian of the Indian lands, basically driving the Indians on the reservations. So the Indian Overlook's based on, it's built on an Indian burial ground, symbolizing that the Overlook, is the United States burying the Indian nations. Representing this, you will see a conspicuous American flag sitting on Mr. Allman's desk, who is the manager, and then Danny and Wendy are dressed as the American flag right before they go into the Overlook. If you pay attention to the scene where they're in their apartment, that's all they do is wear red, white, and blue color schemes.
That's right.
That's all it is red, white, and blue, symbolizing the American flag. So you have this concept of Kubrick kind of portraying the dark side of America and all the ghosts. The one guy says it's all the Hollywood people come here. All the ghosts are opulent yet demonic. All the presidents hung out there. So you definitely have the Overlook representing this sort of dark side of the United States, what Carl Gustav Jung would call its shadow. Then you've got the alchemical, transmutation of Torrance going into madness. But then you also have sort of tied in with this, this concept, if we talk about like Dorothy Gale going through this sort of, in Masonry going through this being brought from darkness to light, going through this, enlightenment, this revelation. In The Shining, it's reversed, where you have this sort of solar downfall, where you have sort of concepts of anti-gnosis and anti-apotheosis, where the character, the sun character of Jack Torrance is basically a fallen sun character. You almost want to equate him to sort of like a Luciferian, false light bearer sort of character, because you will see these astrological references going on in The Shining. The downfall for Torrance begins in the Golden Room, symbolizing the sun. And the Golden Room in the Overlook was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect, the interior designer, and this is paralleled by Lloyd, the bartender. Tells you this, his name Lloyd,
right.
After Frank Lloyd Wright. Lloyd is really basically like a devil figure, serving Torrance the alcohol to assist him in his downfall. You will have, the whole overlook is a giant maze. Kubrick cinematically presents that. If you read books on esoterica, you'll know that the maze is a solar emblem. Albert Pike talks about this. Yet it's the kid who takes sanctuary in the natural maze, outside. But the maze of the overlook's brooding hallways is sort of this anti-solar emblem. Then you have astrological references. The hotel is called KBK 12, referencing the 12 houses of the zodiac. The room number 237 that the little boy goes into, if you add 237, you get the number 12. But then again, you have this, and I'm not really ready to buy into this yet, this whole concept of the moon launch in The Shining. And this comes from a documentary that I saw, so I got to give credit here, called Room 237. I don't want people thinking I'm coming up with this one on my own. This does come from a documentary called Room 237. And the idea is that Stanley Kubrick was retained by the United States government to film the footage of the guys jumping around on the moon. Now, whether they went or not, whether they faked the moon launch or not is another story. But the guys you see jumping around, planting that flag, was filmed by Stanley Kubrick. He's the guy who filmed it in some studio in some secret base somewhere. Interestingly, in the James Bond movie Diamonds of Forever, Bond accidentally breaks into the studio where they're filming the moon, staging the moon landing, by the way.
Right.
That's interesting. But the idea is Kubrick is symbolically telling you this in The Shining, where the scene where the little boy's playing with the toys on the floor, the toys are arranged the way that they would be arranged around a rocket right before they're taking off. Then the ball comes rolling in out of nowhere, and the boy, Danny, stands up with authority. I mean, he definitely is standing up with authority, like he's got an attitude. And of course, the little boy's Danny Torrance is wearing the Apollo 11 sweatshirt. It's clear as a bell. And then the kid, he walks over to the room 237. And in the book, it's room 213, and King never could figure out why Kubrick changed it, and Kubrick just always wrote it off. He never gave an answer. He just said, artistic license, I'll do what I want. But the esoteric symbolism with all this is that 237 in the late 1980s, this is the distance from the Earth to the Moon. It's 237,000 miles. And what Kubrick is symbolically trying to tell you is, hey, I'm the guy who filmed this, and the boy wearing the Apollo 11 sweatshirt is going to the moon, and Kubrick is symbolically trying to tell the viewer, hey, I'm the guy who actually filmed the moon footage.
Every time now that I've seen 237, by the way, every time I see The Shining now, I cannot help but see all of this. And
I agree. No, I don't know.
It's rough to get through now. It's hard to enjoy the movie and get scared because you see all of the stuff going on. Now, one last question. Here's the king of all questions when it comes to Kubrick. The ending of 2001. What does it really mean? And please give us the right answer because everybody wants to know.
Well, to me, I mean, I don't. I can only give you my take on it, but to me, it's the apotheosis. I mean, it's what I said earlier. It's really the apotheosis of mankind. To me, it's really mankind reaching a godlike state. That's what it is to me.
Okay, I think,
I guess that maybe not be the most exciting answer.
No, this is my take. Now, I've read the book. I read the book when I was like 8. Okay, I probably reread it when I was 9 and 10. I watched the movie at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year. Okay, I do. I study the film. I think the ending is open to interpretation.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think you can talk to 2, 3, 4 people and ask them and get the same answer.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, I talk a little bit about some of the symbolism of going around with the monoliths. To me, you get into the concept of the monoliths in 2001. Which really kind of contain this sort of esoteric occult, astrological, alien, extraterrestrial origins of the human, of mankind, of the universe in general. This is what these trilithon, or what the monoliths seem to be incorporating, and these to me seem to represent like trilithon stones of things like Stonehenge, which is this stuff really trying to talk about some sort of secret, astrological, these monoliths, these trilithon stones at Stonehenge have all these astral alignments. The things like the pyramids. Is this really trying to, suggest, is Clark trying to suggest sort of this by incorporation of the trilithon stones, symbolizing, the monolith symbolizing this, are these things like Stonehenge and the pyramids trying to, really, tell us about maybe our real extraterrestrial origins of mankind. It's interesting. It's fascinating.
Well, I think, and one of it's called Vision, visionary writing with Arthur C. Clarke, and the way that the monolith is presented, it was accidentally, found on the moon and
right.
revealed, and I cannot help but see the same exact situation that's happening right now with Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. And I talk about it often on this show, but here we have this missing civilization in Göbekli Tepe, the monolith, the same type of structure, deliberately buried. Göbekli Tepe
Right.
was deliberately buried 12,000 years ago, and now we have found it, and it's the same kind of parallel in the story.
Right.
And it's just funny how Arthur C. Clarke had the vision of writing that type of reveal for humanity and how it is done, and boom, we go and do it in Göbekli Tepe, and it's so similar, it's spooky, it's scary.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I tend to agree with you. I mean, with the monoliths, with trilithon stones, they definitely seem to be, symbolizing some sort of, occult lost history that we have yet to figure out.
I've got to thank you for coming on tonight. This is I just love it. Now we have to. I have no issues with spending 2 hours on the Black Swan. Just so you know. So don't threaten me with that, because I'll bring you back.
Oh yeah, good grief! You got tons of stuff going on in that thing.
I really appreciate it, Robert. It was a great night. The questions were great. Thank you for everybody on Twitter too as well. Before I let you go, what have you got going on? Are you speaking anywhere? Is there anything on the agenda?
Yeah, actually, Royal Arch was completed. Cinema Symbolism is out now. I'm actually writing 3 books at once right now. I'm working on what's called Cinema Symbolism 2. This is Cinema Symbolism sequel. I could have gone on forever in Cinema Symbolism, so I excised out some movies that I'm putting in its sequel. I'm doing the Alan Moore material in Cinema Symbolism 2, like From Hell, Watchmen. What's the other one? What's the other one that he does? V for Vendetta. Then I'm doing a lot of, I'm doing the Harry Potter movies in Cinema Symbolism 2. I'm doing the C.S. Lewis material in Cinema Symbolism 2. I did the J.R.R. Tolkien material, The Lord of the Rings. That's in Cinema Symbolism. That's out now. You can get that. So I'm doing Cinema Symbolism 2. I'm working on my first work of fiction, and I've just begun writing a new book on Freemasonry, which I just started actually yesterday. So yeah, I'm writing 3 books at once right now. And I want to thank you, by the way, for having me on your show. I really appreciate you having me on Fade to Black. I thought it was a great podcast, a great radio show. I appreciate it so much. I thought you were, a great host. I really appreciate being here. And that's what I got going on. And like I said, and you've given my website out, or Robert W. Sullivan IV. You got it linked up on your page.
Yep.
You can go there. There's links to buy all my stuff. Follow me on social media. Buy the books, ebooks, Kindles, Nooks. Paperbacks, whatever you want, and links to all my social media, my YouTube channel. And again, that's what I got going on right now.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we'll get you on here again soon. I'll talk to you over the weekend.
Yeah, that'd be great, Jimmy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Robert. You have a good night.
Okay, you too now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Fade to Black. Now, everybody, thank you, Robert. That was an amazing 2.5 hours. We are out of time, but I'm just going to say this. I was watching everybody bring up the Malibu Deep Underwater Base. I do have a major announcement to make, and everybody just sit down and absorb this. But I will be flying out in a plane with a friend of mine, Steve Freund, a pilot that I have known for 35 years. The plane is booked, and we are heading out this Sunday, and I will be shooting video for a couple of hours directly over. Now, this is what we found out today. I will not be violating any airspace by, and I'm not kidding here, by a few hundred yards. But we shouldn't have any issues with Magoo. We will get clearances to fly and overfly into that airspace. So we are actually okay. That is going to happen this Sunday afternoon. And I'm totally excited about that. We're going to spend about, we can spend as much time as we need, but I imagine we're going to shoot for about an hour, up and down every single angle that we can capture. And Steve shoots a lot of video for Hollywood and stuff. One of the things that he said that we can do, and we are going to do, we are going to shoot from 50 feet off the water, and we are going to go up in a spiral to 10,000 feet, turn around, and spiral down back to the surface of the ocean. And I will shoot all of this. So I am so excited about that. Now, we are going to do this at high noon to 1 o'clock, where the sun will be obviously directly, the water will be lit up best. We're going to shoot every edge and look for any type of surface anomaly that will happen, light versus dark, and where the sun is hitting anything in the water. And hopefully the marine layer will be burned off by the time we get out there. So that is the announcement. I cannot wait. I should have some pretty exciting video. It's either going to show something or nothing, or both. And I'll have all of that at the beginning of next week. So, again, big thanks to Robert Sullivan IV. Thank you. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe. Friday night, John B. Wells. Stay tuned. Coming up next is the Arizona UFO Show. It is live with your host, Rich Giordano. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black is produced by Rita Kumarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. The announcers are Steve Harder and Mark D. Kovar. Music is by Doug Aldrich, this guy right here. He can spank the plank, by the way. Show intro is performed by Space Boy. We got a new mix coming up this weekend, by the way, from Space Boy. Can't wait. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll see you tomorrow night with Linda Moulton Howe. Be safe. See ya.
Wow.